The moment Damien Moretti walked into that ballroom, Lena Vale's entire world shattered. She was just a waitress drowning in medical bills and exhaustion. He was the heir to an empire built on blood and power. When she dropped a champagne glass in front of Washington's elite, humiliation should have destroyed her. Instead, the most dangerous man in the room stepped forward and said 5 words that ignited a war. "I'll take her." What happens when a woman with nothing to lose catches the obsession of a king who controls everything? Stay until the end. Like this video and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The Blackthorn Grand Hotel smelled like old money and expensive lies. Lena Vale moved through the ballroom with a silver tray balanced on her left palm, her right hand steadying champagne flutes that cost more than her monthly rent. Crystal chandeliers scattered golden light across marble floors, while politicians laughed too loudly and tech billionaires checked their phones between handshakes with senators. Her feet ached inside cheap black flats. The catering uniform clung to her shoulders after 16 hours of standing, smiling, pretending she belonged among people who never noticed faces like hers. She was furniture, background noise. The help. That was fine. Furniture didn't get fired, and Lena needed every dollar. Her phone buzzed against her hip. She ignored it. 3rd time in an hour. Probably another automated reminder from the care facility about the overdue balance on her mother's insulin treatments. As if she could forget. As if the number didn't sit in her stomach like a stone every waking moment. She wove between clusters of elegance. Women in couture gowns worth 6 figures. Men in custom suits discussing mergers over imported whiskey. The orchestra played something classical and forgettable. Someone laughed. Someone else clinked glasses. The noise blurred together into white static. Then the room changed. Not because the music stopped. Not because anyone shouted or dropped anything. The shift was quieter than that, subtler, like the air pressure dropping before a storm. Conversations faltered mid-sentence. Heads turned toward the entrance. Even the orchestra seemed to play softer, as though the building itself was holding its breath. Damien Moretti walked in. Lena had heard the name before. Impossible not to in a city like Washington. The Morettis were old money wrapped around older power. An Italian-American dynasty that operated somewhere between legitimate business and things people whispered about but never proved. Senators took their calls. Judges remembered their campaign contributions. And everyone knew better than to ask too many questions. She'd never seen him in person. He moved through the ballroom like gravity worked differently around him. Charcoal suit tailored so precisely it might as well have been armor. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, mouth set in a line that suggested he didn't smile often and didn't care. But it was his eyes that made her chest tighten. Cold silver. The kind of gray that looked through people instead of at them. Men twice his age stepped aside without realizing they were doing it. Women straightened their posture, adjusted their jewelry, angled themselves into his line of sight. 5 socialites in designer gowns immediately circled him like wolves trying to impress the pack leader. Damien ignored every single one of them. His gaze swept the ballroom with the efficiency of someone cataloging exits and threats. It passed over senators, tech founders, a former Supreme Court justice. Then it stopped. On her. Lena's breath caught. Her fingers tightened on the tray. For one suspended heartbeat, the noise and music and flashing cameras disappeared. Only the waitress and the king remained. His expression didn't change. He didn't smile or nod or acknowledge her in any visible way. But those silver eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that felt like being X-rayed. Like he could see straight through the uniform and exhaustion to every desperate secret she carried. Then someone stepped between them, a congressman with a booming laugh and an outstretched hand, and the connection shattered. Lena exhaled shakily, her heart hammered against her ribs. What the hell was that? She turned away quickly, focusing on refilling glasses and clearing empty plates. Probably nothing. Men like Damien Moretti didn't notice women like her. He'd been looking past her at something else. Someone else. A trick of the light. Her phone buzzed again. 4th time. She swallowed hard and kept moving. 20 minutes later, she was stationed near the bar when her phone rang outright, a shrill sound that cut through the elegant murmur of the gala. Panic shot up her spine. The care facility never called unless something was wrong. She fumbled the phone from her pocket, nearly dropping the tray in the process. Her supervisor shot her a warning glare from across the room, but Lena didn't care. She stepped into the corner near the service hallway and answered. "Ms. Vale?" The nurse's voice was tight, professional, the kind of calm that meant everything was not calm. "Your mother collapsed an hour ago. We've stabilized her, but her blood sugar crashed dangerously low. We need you to come in and discuss her treatment plan. Tonight." The floor tilted. "I'm working. I can't." "Ms. Vale, we've been trying to reach you. If you can't get here within the hour, we'll need to transfer her to County General." Translation: the public hospital where people waited 18 hours in hallways and no one remembered your name. "I'll be there." Lena's voice cracked. 20 minutes. She ended the call. Her hands shook so badly the champagne flutes rattled on the tray. She took 2 steps toward the service exit, then remembered she needed to clock out properly or risk losing the shift pay entirely. She turned back toward the ballroom and walked directly into a tuxedoed guest. The tray flew from her hands. Crystals shattered across marble. Champagne sprayed across polished shoes and the hem of a $20,000 gown. The crash echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. 300 people stared at the clumsy waitress surrounded by broken glass and spilled alcohol. Lena's face burned. Her throat closed. She dropped to her knees automatically, reaching for the shards with shaking hands. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll clean this up. Jesus Christ, watch where you're going." The woman in the ruined gown stepped back sharply, disgust twisting her Botoxed features. "Do you have any idea how much this dress cost?" "I'm sorry. You should be fired." A man in a navy suit sneered down at her. Completely unacceptable. Lena's vision blurred. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her mother was collapsing in a facility an hour away, and she was on her knees in front of people who saw her as less than human, and she couldn't do anything right, couldn't ever do anything right. "I'll take her." The voice cut through the noise like a blade. Lena looked up. Damien Moretti stood 3 feet away, hands in his pockets, silver eyes fixed on her with that same unreadable intensity from earlier. He hadn't raised his voice, hadn't moved, but every person in the ballroom went silent. The woman in the ruined gown blinked. "Excuse me?" "I'll take her." Damien's tone was calm, final, the kind of voice that didn't expect to repeat itself. He looked at Lena. "You need to leave." It wasn't a question. She nodded numbly. Damien turned to the event coordinator hovering nearby, a thin man in wireframe glasses who looked like he was about to have a stroke. "Bill any damages to my account, and make sure she's paid for the full shift." The coordinator stammered something affirmative. Damien extended a hand toward Lena. She stared at it for half a second, scarred knuckles, a platinum watch that probably cost more than her car, then took it. His grip was warm, steady. He pulled her to her feet effortlessly. "Come on." He didn't let go of her hand. The ballroom watched in stunned silence as Damien Moretti, heir to one of the most powerful families on the East Coast, walked a waitress straight out the front doors. Bussing. The night air hit Lena like a slap. Cold. Sharp. She gulped it down, trying to force oxygen into her lungs. Her hand was still in Damien's. She yanked it back suddenly, awareness crashing over her in waves. What are you doing?" Her voice came out hoarse. "Why did you needed to leave." Damien's expression remained unreadable. He gestured toward the valet stand where a sleek black Aston Martin sat idling, a young attendant hovering nervously beside it. "Where do you need to go?" "I don't understand." "Where?" Not a question. A command. Lena's mind spun. Nothing about this made sense. Men like Damien Moretti didn't leave billion-dollar charity galas for waitresses. They didn't notice broken glass or panic attacks or her mother. "Georgetown Memorial," she blurted. "The care facility on Wisconsin Avenue. My mother, she collapsed. I have to—" Her voice broke. Damien nodded once. He opened the passenger door of the Aston Martin. "Get in." I don't even know you." "Lena." Her name in his mouth stopped her cold. How did he know her name? "Your mother collapsed. You're terrified, and you don't have time to argue with me." His silver eyes pinned her in place. "Get in the car." She got in the car. Damien slid behind the wheel, the door shut with an expensive click. The interior smelled like leather and something darker, smoke, maybe, or expensive cologne. The engine purred to life. They pulled away from the Blackthorn Grand Hotel as rain began to streak the windshield. Lena pressed herself against the passenger door, heart racing. This was insane. She was in a car with a stranger, a dangerous stranger, if even half the rumors about the Morettis were true. She should demand he stop, should jump out at the next red light, should— Seatbelt, Damien said quietly. She clicked it on automatically. They drove in silence. Rain hammered the windshield. Neon lights from storefronts and traffic signals flickered across Damien's profile. Jaw tight, eyes forward, hands steady on the wheel. Those hands, scarred knuckles. She'd noticed them earlier. The kind of scars you didn't get from paperwork. Why are you helping me? The question came out smaller than she intended. Damien didn't look at her. Does it matter? Yes. A pause. Then, your mother's name is Vivian Vale. Lena's blood went cold. How do you— She worked as an ER nurse at Washington General 25 years ago. Damien's voice was flat, factual. She saved my life when I was 16. I don't forget debts. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Lena's mouth opened, closed. She didn't know what to say, didn't know what to think. Her mother had saved hundreds of lives over her 30-year nursing career. She'd never mentioned— She won't remember me, Damien continued. I was brought in under a fake name, trauma case, stab wounds to the chest and abdomen. The attending physician wanted to call the police. Your mother convinced him not to. He glanced at her briefly. She told him some kids deserve a second chance, even the ones who look like they don't. Lena's throat tightened. That sounded exactly like something her mother would say. So you're repaying a debt. Her voice came out flat. That's all this is. Yes. She should have felt relieved, should have been grateful. Instead, something bitter twisted in her chest. Of course. Men like Damien Moretti didn't do things out of kindness. They operated on transactions, ledgers, debts paid and favors owed. She turned toward the window and said nothing else. Georgetown Memorial's care facility glowed against the rainy darkness like a fluorescent prison. Damien pulled into the parking lot and cut the engine. Lena had her seatbelt off before the car fully stopped. Thank you for the ride. She reached for the door handle. I'm coming with you. She froze. You don't have to. I'm coming with you. Damien was already out of the car. He came around to her side, opened her door before she could protest. Rain soaked his expensive suit within seconds. He didn't seem to notice. Lena climbed out. Why? Because you're about to walk into a building full of administrators who will delay, deflect, and bill you for every second of their time. Damien's voice was calm, clinical. And I'm very good at making people move faster. They walked through the sliding glass doors together. The lobby smelled like disinfectant and despair. That particular combination of antiseptic and human misery that clung to every underfunded medical facility in America. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A bored receptionist glanced up from her computer. Lena Vale, Lena said quickly. I'm here for Vivian Vale. She was admitted earlier tonight. Room 247, second floor. The receptionist barely looked at them. Elevators down, take the stairs. Lena was already moving. Damien followed silently, his presence a solid weight at her back. They climbed the stairs two at a time, her legs burned. She didn't care. Room 247 was at the end of a long hallway, painted that specific shade of industrial beige that existed only in hospitals and government buildings. Lena shoved through the door without knocking. Her mother lay in this narrow bed, IV lines running into both arms, oxygen cannula beneath her nose. Her skin looked gray, papery. She'd lost more weight. When had she lost so much weight? Mom? Lena's voice cracked. She crossed to the bed, took her mother's hand. The fingers were cold, too cold. Vivian's eyes fluttered open, confusion, then recognition. Lena, baby, you didn't have to come. Don't. Lena's throat burned. Don't you dare tell me I didn't have to come. A nurse appeared in the doorway, middle-aged, tired, the kind of exhaustion that lived in the bones. Ms. Vale, I'm glad you're here. We need to discuss. She stopped. Her gaze landed on Damien standing just inside the room, hands in his pockets, face unreadable. I'm sorry, but only family is allowed. He's with me, Lena said quickly. The nurse hesitated. Something flickered across her expression. Recognition, maybe, or fear. She swallowed. Of course, I'll get the attending physician. She disappeared. Vivian's gaze had also landed on Damien, her brow furrowed. Do I know you? No, ma'am. Damien's voice was softer than Lena had heard it, almost gentle. I'm a friend of your daughter's. Lena nearly laughed at the absurdity of that statement. They weren't friends. They were nothing. A debt transaction, a stranger in an expensive suit who dragged her out of a ballroom for reasons she still didn't fully understand. But her mother smiled weakly. Any friend of Lena's is welcome here. The attending physician arrived 10 minutes later, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a tablet clutched like a shield. He launched into medical terminology and treatment options and apologetic explanations about insurance limitations and out-of-pocket costs. The numbers made Lena's head spin. $12,000 for the insulin regimen her mother needed. Another $8,000 for the specialist consultations. More for follow-up care. We can set up a payment plan, the doctor said, his tone suggesting he'd given this speech 100 times before. But we'll need at least 30% down before we can proceed with, I'll cover it. Everyone turned to Damien. The doctor blinked. I'm sorry? All of it. Damien pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. Send the invoices to my accountant. Full payment by tomorrow morning. Silence crashed over the room like a physical weight. Mister? The doctor's voice was careful now, cautious. Moretti. Damien didn't look up from his phone. Damien Moretti. My assistant will handle the paperwork. The doctor's face went pale. He swallowed hard. Of course, I'll make sure everything is expedited. He fled the room like it was on fire. Lena stared at Damien. You can't. I just did. That's $20,000. Yes. I can't let you. Ooh. Lena. Damien finally looked at her. Those silver eyes held something she couldn't name. Your mother saved my life. This doesn't even begin to repay that debt. His voice was flat, matter of fact, like he was discussing the weather. Let me do this. Her mother's hand squeezed hers weakly. Lena, let him help. Let him help. As if it were that simple. As if accepting $20,000 from a man she'd met 2 hours ago didn't come with strings. With obligations. With consequences she couldn't begin to calculate. But her mother was alive. And conscious. And would stay that way because of him. Thank you, Lena whispered. The words felt inadequate. Hollow. Damien nodded once. Then he did something that surprised her more than anything else that night. He pulled a chair from the corner of the room, positioned it beside Vivian's bed, and sat down, and stayed. Ibasig. The hours blurred together. Nurses came and went. Medications were administered. Vivian drifted in and out of sleep. Lena sat on the other side of the bed, holding her mother's hand, watching numbers on monitors fluctuate and praying they stayed stable. Damien didn't leave. He sat in that uncomfortable plastic chair, silent and still, occasionally checking his phone, but never fully disengaging. Twice, Lena told him he didn't have to stay. Twice, he ignored her. Around 2 a.m., a nurse brought coffee in styrofoam cups. Lena accepted hers gratefully, burning her tongue on the first sip. Damien took his black and didn't drink it. Why are you really here? Lena asked quietly. Her mother was asleep. The room was dim except for the glow of medical equipment. And don't tell me it's just about repaying a debt. Damien was silent for a long moment. Then, your mother told the attending physician I deserved a second chance. She was wrong. Lena frowned. What do you mean? I didn't take it. Damien's voice was flat, empty. I went right back to the life that nearly killed me. Made it worse. Built an empire on it. He finally looked at her. Your mother wasted her compassion on me, but I'm not going to let her daughter suffer because of choices I made 25 years ago. The words settled between them like stones. You don't owe us anything, Lena said softly. Yes, I do. Why? Damien's jaw tightened. For a second, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because people like me don't get saved. We get used, discarded, turned into weapons. Your mother looked at a bleeding kid with a fake name and saw someone worth saving. He paused. No one had ever done that before. Lena's chest ached. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that everyone deserved compassion. But the exhaustion in his voice stopped her. This wasn't self-pity. It was fact. A truth he'd lived with for so long it had calcified into certainty. She'd do it again, Lena said. If she knew who you were, she'd still think you deserved that second chance. Damien's expression didn't change. Then she's a better person than I'll ever be. They sat in silence after that. The hospital hummed around them, distant footsteps, muffled conversations, machines beeping in other rooms. Lena's eyelids grew heavy. She fought it, couldn't afford to sleep, had to stay awake in case. Rest, Damien's voice cut through the fog. I'll wake you if anything changes. I can't, Lena. His tone was firm but not unkind. You're no good to her exhausted. Close your eyes. She wanted to argue, but her body betrayed her. The adrenaline had burned off hours ago, leaving only bone-deep exhaustion. She let her head rest against the side of the bed, her hand still holding her mother's. Just for a few minutes. When she opened her eyes again, pale gray light filtered through the window. Morning. She'd slept for hours. Panic jolted through her. Why hadn't anyone woken her? But her mother was still breathing steadily, the monitors still beeping their reassuring rhythm. And Damien was exactly where she'd left him. Still in the chair, still awake. His suit was wrinkled now, his tie loosened, but his eyes were alert, watchful. You didn't sleep, Lena said hoarsely. No. You should have gone home. I'm fine. Lena pushed herself upright, wincing at the stiffness in her neck. How long have you been awake? Does it matter? Yes? Damien's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. 36 hours, give or take. Jesus Christ. Lena stared at him. You need to rest. I've gone longer. Something in the way he said it made her stomach turn. She thought about the scars on his knuckles, the flat, empty way he talked about his past, the way he sat in that chair like a soldier on watch, hyper-aware of every sound in the hallway. This wasn't a man who rested. This was a man who survived. The door opened. A different doctor, older, gray-haired, with kinder eyes, stepped inside. Ms. Vale, good news. Your mother's stabilized beautifully. We'll keep her another day for observation, but she should be able to go home tomorrow. Relief crashed over Lena so hard she nearly sobbed. Thank you. Thank you so much. The doctor smiled. Then his gaze shifted to Damien. The smile faded slightly. Mr. Moretti, I didn't realize you were here. Just visiting, Damien said smoothly. The doctor nodded slowly. Of course. He looked back at Lena. We'll have the discharge paperwork ready by tomorrow afternoon. He left quickly. Lena waited until the door closed. People are afraid of you. Yes. Why? Damien stood, rolling his shoulders. The movement was controlled, precise. Because I've given them reason to be. He checked his phone. I need to leave. I have a meeting in 2 hours. He looked at her mother, still sleeping peacefully, then at Lena. She'll be fine. How do you know? Because I made sure of it. Lena stood too. Her legs were unsteady. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Damien studied her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression, just a flicker, so brief she might have imagined it. Curiosity, interest, something almost human beneath all that control. You're not afraid of me, he said quietly. It wasn't a question, but Lena answered anyway. Should I be? Most people are. I'm not most people. Another almost smile. No, you're not. He moved toward the door. Lena followed on instinct. In the hallway, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A nurse pushed a cart past them. The world was waking up. Damien. His first name felt strange on her tongue. He turned. Why did you really stay all night? He was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because no one should be alone in a place like this. The words hung between them. Before Lena could respond, her mother's voice drifted from the room. Lena? Honey? Where are you? Coming, Mom. Lena glanced back at Damien. Will I see you again? His silver eyes held hers. Do you want to? The question caught her off guard. She should say no. Should thank him for his help and let him disappear back into whatever world he came from. Men like Damien Moretti were dangerous. Everyone knew it. The smart thing was to walk away. Yes, she heard herself say. Something flickered across his face. Not quite surprise, not quite satisfaction. Something in between. Then you will. He turned and walked down the hallway. Lena watched until he disappeared around the corner, his expensive suit out of place against the industrial beige walls. Her heart was racing. She didn't understand why. Inside the room, her mother called her name again. Lena took a breath and went back inside. 3 days later, Lena was restocking shelves at the pharmacy where she worked part-time when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Dinner, Friday, 8 p.m. I'll send a car. No signature, no explanation. But she knew who it was. She should delete it, should block the number, should do the smart thing. Instead, she typed back, "Where?" The response came immediately. "You'll see." Lena stared at the screen. Her hands shook. She thought about silver eyes and scarred knuckles and the way Damien had sat in that hospital chair for hours without complaint. The way he'd looked at her in the ballroom like she was the only person in the room. The way everyone else had looked at him with fear. She typed, "Okay." And just like that, everything changed. Friday arrived too quickly. Lena spent the entire day anxious and second-guessing herself. She didn't own anything appropriate for wherever Damien was taking her. Her entire wardrobe consisted of work uniforms, thrift store jeans, and a single black dress she wore to funerals. At 7:45 p.m., a sleek black Mercedes pulled up outside her apartment building. The driver, a broad-shouldered man in a dark suit, opened the back door without a word. Lena climbed in, feeling like an imposter. They drove through D.C. as the sun set, painting the monuments gold and orange. Lena watched the city slide past, her stomach twisting tighter with every mile. The Mercedes finally stopped in front of a restaurant she'd only seen in magazines, one of those places where senators took mistresses and foreign diplomats negotiated treaties over wine that cost 4 figures a bottle. The driver opened her door. "Mr. Moretti is waiting inside." Lena stepped onto the sidewalk. Her cheap heels clicked against marble. A valet took the car. A host in a pristine suit appeared at her elbow. "Ms. Vale, this way, please." He led her through the restaurant, all dark wood and low lighting and hushed conversations, to a private room in the back. Damien stood when she entered, dressed in a black shirt and slacks that probably cost more than her rent. "You came." He sounded surprised. "You didn't think I would?" "I wasn't sure." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." Lena sat. The room was small, intimate. A single table set for 2, candles flickered between them. It should have been romantic. Instead, it felt like a negotiation. "Why am I here?" Lena asked. Damien poured wine into her glass, red, expensive probably. "Because I wanted to see you again." "Why?" "Does there have to be a reason?" "With you?" "Yes." He smiled slightly. Actually smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost human. "You're direct. I like that." "I can't afford not to be." The smile faded. Damien leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Your mother's doing well. She'll be discharged tomorrow." "I know. Thank you again." "Stop thanking me." "I can't." "Lena." His voice was firm. "I told you this was a debt. You don't owe me anything." Except she did. She owed him everything, her mother's life, the medical care they never could have afforded. And now, this, whatever this was. "What do you want from me?" The question came out sharper than she intended. Damien's expression didn't change. "Nothing you're not willing to give." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now." A waiter appeared with appetizers Lena couldn't pronounce. They ate in tense silence. The food was incredible, delicate, artful, the kind of meal someone had spent years learning to prepare. Lena barely tasted it. "Tell me about yourself," Damien said eventually. "Why?" "Because I want to know." Lena set down her fork. "There's nothing to tell. I work 3 jobs. I take care of my mother. I barely sleep. That's my life." "What did you want to be before?" "Before." The word hung between them like an accusation. Before her father died, before her mother got sick, before medical debt swallowed every dream she'd ever had. A teacher, Lena said quietly. Elementary school. I wanted to work with kids who didn't have much. Give them the kind of attention I never got. Why didn't you? Because life had other plans. Damien nodded slowly. Life usually does. They finished dinner. The waiter brought dessert, something chocolate and elaborate, and Lena found herself relaxing despite everything. Damien asked questions, real questions, about her childhood, her mother's nursing career, the neighborhood where she grew up. He listened like her answers actually mattered. It was dangerous. This feeling, this illusion of intimacy. Tell me about you, Lena said finally. Fair's fair. Damien's expression shuddered instantly. There's nothing worth telling. I don't believe that. You should. Why? He leaned forward. The candlelight caught the sharp angles of his face, casting shadows that made him look older, harder. Because the things I've done would make you walk out of this room and never look back. Try me. No. Damien, no. His voice was steel, final. You don't want to know that version of me. Trust me. But Lena had seen that version. In the hospital, in the way people looked at him with fear, in the scars on his knuckles and the exhaustion in his eyes. She'd seen it, and she hadn't walked away. I'm not afraid of you, she said again. You should be. Why do you keep saying that? Damien stood abruptly. Because it's true. He moved to the window overlooking the city. DC glittered below them, monuments and power and corruption all wrapped in pretty lights. My name opens doors. It also paints targets. Anyone associated with me becomes a liability, a weakness someone can exploit. Lena stood too. Is that what I am? A liability? I don't know yet. The honesty was brutal, but at least it was honest. She crossed to where he stood, close enough to see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands were clenched into fists. What do you want, Damien? He turned. They were inches apart. His silver eyes searched hers, something I have no right to. Which is? You. The word hung in the air between them like a lit match. Lena's breath caught. Her heart hammered. She should step back, should leave, should do the smart thing. She didn't move. I don't understand, she whispered. Neither do I. Damien's voice was rough, raw. I've spent my entire life avoiding exactly this. Attachments, distractions, anything that makes you weak. And then you dropped a champagne glass in a ballroom and looked at me like I was human instead of something to fear, and I... He stopped, jaw tight. I can't stop thinking about you. Lena's throat closed. We don't know each other. I know. This is insane. I know that too. You should let me walk away. I should? Damien's hand came up slowly, giving her time to pull back. She didn't. His palm cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. But I won't. The touch sent electricity down her spine. She should be terrified, should be running. Instead, she leaned into his hand like she was starving for contact. What happens now? She breathed. Damien's eyes were molten silver. That depends on you. Before Lena could answer, his phone buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. He closed his eyes briefly, something like pain flashing across his face. Then he stepped back, pulling the phone from his pocket. His expression went cold. I have to go. The words were clipped, final. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. He was already moving toward the door. Then he stopped, turned back. I'll have the driver take you home. Damien! Stay away from me, Lena. His voice was suddenly harsh, distant. I'm not who you think I am, and getting close to me will only hurt you. Then he was gone. Lena stood alone in the private dining room, her skin still tingling from where he'd touched her, her mind spinning. She didn't understand what had just happened, but somewhere deep in her chest, beneath the confusion and fear and attraction she didn't want to name, one truth settled with absolute certainty. It was already too late to walk away. The Mercedes ride home felt like drowning in silence. Lena pressed her forehead against the cold window, watching DC blur into streaks of light and shadow. Her skin still burned where Damien had touched her face, Her mind replayed his words on an endless loop. Stay away from me. I can't stop thinking about you. Getting close to me will only hurt you. The driver said nothing. Neither did she. When they pulled up outside her apartment building, a crumbling 4-story walk-up in a neighborhood where gunshots were background noise, he opened her door without meeting her eyes. Good night, Ms. Vale. She climbed out. The door shut. The Mercedes disappeared into traffic. Lena stood on the cracked sidewalk, shivering in her cheap dress. Above her, someone's television blared through thin walls. A couple argued in Spanish 3 floors up. Normal sounds. Her world. Damien's world was something else entirely. She should forget him, delete his number, pretend Friday night never happened. But when she finally collapsed into bed 2 hours later, exhausted and confused, her phone buzzed with a text. I'm sorry, no signature, none needed. Lena stared at the screen until her vision blurred. Then she typed back, For what? The response came immediately. Everything. She waited for more. Nothing came. She fell asleep with her phone clutched in her hand. Monday morning arrived with rain and 3 missed alarms. Lena overslept, burned her coffee, and showed up 20 minutes late to her shift at the pharmacy. Her supervisor, a pinched woman named Carol, who treated tardiness like a war crime, was waiting by the register with crossed arms and a disapproving scowl. This is the 3rd time this month, Lena. I know. I'm sorry. Your mother isn't my problem. Carol's voice was ice. Either show up on time or find another job. We clear? Lena bit back the response burning on her tongue. She needed this job, needed all 3 jobs. Crystal. Carol walked away. Lena clocked in and started restocking shelves, her hands moving on autopilot while her mind spun elsewhere. She hadn't heard from Damien since Friday night's cryptic apology. Part of her was relieved. The smart part. The part that understood men like him were black holes, beautiful and fascinating and absolutely destructive if you got too close. But another part, the part that remembered his hand on her face and the raw honesty in his voice, kept checking her phone every 5 minutes. Nothing. By noon, she'd convinced herself it was over. Whatever brief, insane thing had sparked between them had burned out as quickly as it started. He'd paid his debt to her mother, scratched whatever itch made him pursue a waitress, moved on. Good. Better this way. Her phone buzzed. Lena nearly dropped the pill bottles she was organizing. She grabbed the phone, heart racing. Unknown number. Not Damien's. Ms. Vale. This is Rafael De Luca, Mr. Moretti's attorney. We need to speak. Today. It's urgent. Cold dread pooled in her stomach. She stepped into the break room and called the number back. A smooth, professional voice answered on the first ring. Ms. Vale, thank you for calling back so quickly. What's wrong? Is Damien? Mr. Moretti is fine, but we have a situation that requires your immediate attention. A pause. Are you able to meet this afternoon? Say, 3 o'clock? Lena glanced at the schedule taped to the break room wall. Her shift ended at 2. She was supposed to head directly to her evening job waiting tables at a diner in Arlington. If she skipped it, she'd lose the shift pay. If she didn't, where? She asked. Raphael gave her an address in Georgetown, one of those glass office towers where lawyers and consultants charged $500 an hour to tell rich people what they wanted to hear. I'll be there, Lena said. She hung up. Her hands shook. Something was wrong, deeply, terribly wrong. The rest of her shift dragged by in agonizing slow motion. Finally, 2 o'clock arrived. She clocked out, ignored Carol's suspicious glare, and caught the metro to Georgetown. The building was exactly as soulless as she'd imagined. All steel and glass and revolving doors that probably cost more than her car. A receptionist directed her to the 14th floor. The elevator played smooth jazz. Lena wanted to scream. Rafael De Luca's office overlooked the Potomac River. He stood when she entered, tall, lean, dressed in a charcoal suit that screamed Ivy League and old money. His handshake was firm but not aggressive. Everything about him was carefully calibrated. Ms. Vale, thank you for coming on short notice. He gestured to a leather chair across from his massive desk. Please sit. Lena sat. What's this about? Raphael settled into his own chair, fingers steepled. I'll be direct. Mr. Moretti has developed an attachment to you, one that's drawn considerable attention within certain circles. What circles? The Moretti family. Raphael's tone was clinical. And by extension, everyone who does business with them. Mr. Moretti's personal life is typically kept extremely private. His public departure from the Blackthorn Gala with you did not go unnoticed. Lena's stomach twisted. I didn't ask him to do that. I'm aware. But intentions are irrelevant. Perception is what matters. Raphael pulled a tablet from his desk drawer, swiped it unlocked. Over the past 72 hours, my office has received inquiries from 3 different federal agencies, 2 investigative journalists, and at least 5 competitors trying to determine who you are and what leverage you might provide. The words hit like a punch. Leverage? You're an unknown, an anomaly. People are trying to understand why Damien Moretti would risk his carefully maintained reputation for a woman with no obvious connections. Raphael's eyes were sympathetic but unyielding. I'm here to offer you protection and compensation. Lena's throat went dry. What kind of compensation? Raphael slid a document across the desk. A contract. She scanned the first page, then the second. Numbers jumped out at her. Big numbers. $200,000, Raphael said calmly. Deposited into an account of your choosing. In exchange, you agree to sever all contact with Mr. Moretti. No calls, no texts, no attempts to reach him through intermediaries. You disappear from his life completely. The room tilted. Lena forced herself to breathe. He sent you here to pay me off? No. Raphael's expression didn't change. He specifically instructed me not to do this. I'm acting on my own authority as his counsel. Because I've spent 15 years keeping Damien alive, and I'm very good at identifying threats. I'm not a threat. You're the biggest threat he's ever faced. Raphael leaned forward. Damien doesn't do relationships, doesn't get attached, doesn't let anyone close enough to matter. It's kept him safe, kept him focused, and now you've appeared, and I'm watching him unravel in real time. Lena's hands clenched into fists. So you're offering me blood money to walk away. I'm offering you a way out before this destroys you both. Raphael's voice softened slightly. $200,000. You pay off your mother's medical debt. Maybe go back to school. Build the life you wanted before circumstances crushed it. All you have to do is leave. The offer sat between them like a loaded gun. Lena thought about her mother's hospital bills, the 3 jobs grinding her into dust, the teaching degree she'd abandoned, the life she'd always wanted but never believed she could have. $200,000 was freedom. All she had to do was give up a man she barely knew, a man who told her to stay away. She stood. No. Raphael blinked. Ms. Vale. No. Her voice was steady now, certain. If Damien wants me gone, he can tell me himself, not through lawyers, not through money, himself. He won't do that. Then I guess I'm not leaving. Raphael studied her for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled, just barely. He said you'd say that. What? Damien, when I told him I was worried about your safety, he said you wouldn't take the money, that you'd tell me to go to hell. Raphael closed the contract folder. I had to try anyway. Lena's pulse hammered. If you knew I'd say no, why did you even offer? Because I needed to see if you were here for the right reasons. Raphael's expression hardened. You passed. Most people don't. What happens now? Now? Raphael stood, moved to the window. Rain streaked the glass. Now you need to understand what you're getting into. Damien isn't just wealthy. He's the heir to an empire built on things the Justice Department has been trying to prove for 30 years. His family operates in shadows, makes problems disappear, influences elections, moves money through channels that don't officially exist. I know who he is. No, you don't. Raphael turned. You know the surface, the public face. You have no idea what he's done to protect that empire, the choices he's made, the bodies he's stepped over. He paused. If you stay in his life, you become part of that. And there's no coming back from it. Lena's mouth was dry. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to save you. Raphael crossed back to his desk, pulled out a card, his personal number, handwritten on expensive cardstock. When this gets too dangerous, and it will, call me. I'll get you out. Lena took the card, slipped it into her pocket. I'm not leaving. Then God help you both. She left Raphael's office feeling like she'd stepped into a nightmare she couldn't wake from. The metro ride back to her neighborhood was a blur. By the time she reached her apartment building, dusk had settled over the city like ash. Her phone buzzed. Finally, Damien. Where are you? She typed back. Home. Where are you? The response came instantly. Outside. Lena's heart stopped. She rushed to her apartment window, yanked the curtain aside. The black Aston Martin was parked across the street, engine idling. Damien stood beside it, hands in his pockets, looking up at her building like he'd been waiting hours. Their eyes met across the distance. Lena grabbed her keys and ran. She took the stairs 2 at a time, burst through the front door onto the sidewalk. Damien was already moving toward her. They met in the middle, both breathing hard. Your lawyer tried to pay me to leave you alone, Lena said. Damien's jaw clenched. I told Raphael not to do that. He did it anyway. Did you take the money? No. Something flickered in Damien's eyes. Relief, fear, both. You should have. That's not your decision. Lena, No. She stepped closer, anger and confusion and something sharper boiling over. You don't get to push me away and then show up outside my apartment. You don't get to tell me to stay away and then send your lawyer to bribe me. You don't get to... Damien kissed her, hard, desperate, like he was drowning and she was air. His hands cupped her face, fingers threading into her hair. Lena froze for half a heartbeat, then kissed him back with equal ferocity. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, needing more. When they finally broke apart, both gasping, Damien pressed his forehead against hers. I tried, he whispered roughly. I tried to stay away. I know. This is a mistake. I know that too. You're going to get hurt. Maybe. Lena's hands were still twisted in his shirt. Or maybe you are. Damien pulled back slightly, enough to look at her. His silver eyes were raw, unguarded. I don't know how to do this. I've never... He stopped, swallowed hard. Everyone I've ever cared about either left or got used against me. I don't let people in. It's safer that way. Safer for who? Everyone. Lena's chest ached. She thought about the scared 16-year-old bleeding out in an ER. The man who'd sat in a hospital chair all night watching over her mother. The ruthless heir everyone feared and no one really knew. I'm not afraid of you, she said for the 3rd time. You should be. Stop saying that. It's true. Then make me understand. Lena grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Stop hiding. Stop running. If you want me gone, tell me why. Show me who you really are, because right now all I see is someone terrified of being human. Damien stared at her. Thunder rumbled overhead. Rain began to fall, cold, sharp drops that soaked through their clothes within seconds. Come with me, he said finally. Where? Somewhere you'll understand. But decades. They drove through rain-slicked streets into Maryland. Damien said nothing. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Lena didn't push. Whatever he was about to show her, it was costing him something. They ended up in an industrial neighborhood outside Baltimore. Warehouses and shipping containers and streets with no working lights. Damien pulled into an alley behind a nondescript building, killed the engine. Wait here, he said. Like hell. He looked at her. Lena, I'm not waiting in the car. Either we do this together or not at all. His jaw worked. Then he nodded once. Stay close to me. Don't talk to anyone. Don't look at anyone too long. And if I tell you to leave, you run. Understand? Yes. They got out. Rain hammered down. Damien led her to a rusted metal door, knocked 3 times in a specific rhythm. The door opened. A mountain of a man in a leather jacket looked Damien up and down, then stepped aside. Inside was a casino, but not the Vegas kind. This was underground. Illegal. The air reeked of cigarette smoke and desperation. Men in expensive suits played poker alongside men with prison tattoos. Women in too much makeup served drinks and probably other things. Security guards with visible weapons stood at every exit. Damien moved through it like he owned the place. Because he did. Mr. Moretti. A thin man in a stained shirt appeared at his elbow. We weren't expecting you tonight. I'm not here on business, Marcus. Damien's voice was cold, flat, nothing like the man who'd kissed her 10 minutes ago. Just showing someone around. Marcus's eyes slid to Lena. She saw the calculation, the assessment, then fear when Damien stepped slightly in front of her. Of course. Anything you need. They kept walking, through the casino floor to a back hallway, downstairs into a basement that smelled like mildew and old blood. Damien stopped in front of another door. Heavy steel. The kind meant to keep things in, not out. Last chance, he said quietly. You can still walk away. Lena's heart hammered. Open it. Damien pulled out a key, unlocked the door. It swung open with a horror movie creak. Inside was an office, but not a normal one. The walls were covered in maps, photographs, documents pinned in overlapping layers. A massive desk held 3 computer monitors, all showing what looked like financial transactions scrolling endlessly. File cabinets lined one wall, and sitting behind the desk, smoking a cigar, was a man who looked like an older, harder version of Damien. Uncle Lucien, Damien said flatly. Lucien Moretti looked up. His eyes, the same cold silver as Damien's, swept over Lena with predatory interest. Then he smiled. It was not a kind smile. So this is the waitress everyone's talking about. Lena felt Damien tense beside her. Her name is Lena, Damien said. I know her name. I know everything about her. Lucien pulled a folder from his desk, tossed it onto the surface between them. It fell open. Photographs spilled out. Lena's apartment, her workplace, her mother's care facility, pictures of her walking to the metro, eating lunch, sleeping. Someone had been following her. Nausea rolled through her stomach. This is what happens, Damien said quietly, when you get close to me. Lucien took a long drag on his cigar. The council wants to meet her, officially. No. It wasn't a request. I don't care. Damien's voice was steel. She's not part of this. She is the moment you brought her into our world. Lucien's smile widened. You think you can keep her separate? Keep her safe? You're smarter than that, nephew. There's no neutral ground. She's either with us or she's a liability. She's neither. Then what is she? Damien was silent. Lucien laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. You don't even know. That's the problem. He stood, moved around the desk with the grace of a predator. You're compromised, distracted, making emotional decisions. The council is concerned. The council can go to hell. Watch your tone. Lucien's voice dropped. I've protected you your entire life, taught you everything you know, but I won't let you destroy what 3 generations built because you caught feelings for some working-class girl with a sick mother. Lena's hands clenched into fists. I'm standing right here. Lucien's eyes snapped to her. Yes, you are, which means you get to hear this directly. Walk away. Tonight. Disappear. We'll make sure you're taken care of. New identity, money, protection. But you leave Damien alone. No. You don't understand what you're refusing. I understand perfectly. Lena's voice shook, but held. You want me gone because you can't control me, because I make Damien remember he's human instead of just a weapon for your empire. The room went silent. Lucien stared at her, then at Damien. You told her. She needed to know. You broke every rule we have about outsiders. I don't care. Lucien moved fast. 1 second he was across the room, the next he had Damien by the collar, slamming him against the wall. You will care when she ends up dead because you were too selfish to protect her properly. Damien didn't fight back, didn't move, just stared at his uncle with those cold silver eyes. Then teach me how. The words hung in the air like smoke. Lucien released him slowly, stepped back. When he spoke again, his voice was different, tired, almost sad. You can't protect her and lead this family. You'll have to choose. I already have. Then you're a fool. Damien straightened his collar. Probably. Lucien looked at Lena again, this time without the predatory assessment, just exhaustion. You really won't leave him? No. Even knowing what he is? Especially knowing what he is. Something shifted in Lucien's expression. Not approval, but maybe respect. He moved back to his desk, stubbed out his cigar. The council meets Friday. Both of you will attend. They'll decide whether she's an asset or a threat. And if they decide wrong, then we'll all have bigger problems. Lucien sat down heavily. Get out. I need to make some calls. Damien took Lena's hand. They left the office, climbed the stairs, walked through the casino in silence. No one stopped them. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. They stood beside the Aston Martin. Damien's hand was still holding hers, gripped tight enough to hurt. You shouldn't have defended me, he said quietly. Yes, I should have. Lucien's right. You're in danger now, real danger. Then keep me safe. Damien turned to look at her. His face was raw, stripped. I don't know if I can. Try. Lena, try. She stepped closer, close enough to feel his breath. Because I'm not leaving. I'm not taking the money. I'm not disappearing. I'm here. And if you want me gone, you're going to have to physically remove me yourself. Damien stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her into his arms, held her so tightly she could barely breathe. His face buried in her hair, his whole body shaking. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was broken and beautiful. You're going to destroy me. Maybe we'll destroy each other. I can live with that. They stood there in the rain and darkness, holding each other like the world was ending. Maybe it was. Finally, Damien pulled back. Friday, the council meeting. It's going to be brutal. I can handle brutal. They'll try to break you, find your weaknesses, use everything against you. Let them try. Lena, I'm not afraid. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. I grew up with nothing. I've been broke, exhausted, desperate. I've watched my mother almost die. I've worked 3 jobs just to survive. Your family council doesn't scare me. Nothing they can do is worse than what life's already thrown at me. Damien's eyes searched hers. Then he kissed her again. Slower this time, deeper, like memorizing her. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, Raphael will get you out. Promise me you'll call him. Damien, promise me. Lena swallowed hard. I promise. He pulled her close again. They stayed like that until the rain stopped and dawn started painting the sky gray. The days leading up to Friday passed in a haze of anxiety and preparation. Damien had Raphael brief Lena on the council, who they were, what they controlled, how they operated. The information was overwhelming. The Moretti Empire touched everything: construction, shipping, real estate, waste management, unions, politicians. Legitimate businesses interwoven with operations that existed in legal gray zones. And sitting at the center of it all was the council. 7 men and 1 woman who'd built and protected the empire for decades. They'll test you, Raphael warned over coffee Wednesday morning. Push you to see where you break. Don't lose your temper. Don't show weakness. And whatever you do, don't lie. They'll smell it. What do they want from me? Proof you're not using Damien, that you understand what you're getting into, that you're strong enough to survive it. Raphael's expression was grim. Most people aren't. Lena barely slept Thursday night. Damien had offered to pick her up Friday morning, but she insisted on meeting him there, needed to arrive on her own terms. Friday afternoon, she took the metro to Virginia. The address Raphael had given her was in McLean, one of those neighborhoods where houses cost 8 figures and privacy was purchased with gates and security systems. The Moretti estate sat on 15 acres of manicured grounds. The main house was a massive colonial revival with white columns and black shutters. Beautiful, imposing, a monument to power. Damien met her at the front door. He was dressed in a dark suit, no tie. His expression was carefully blank, but she saw the tension in his shoulders. You came, he said quietly. Did you think I wouldn't? I hoped you would. Feared you wouldn't. He took her hand. Whatever happens in there, know that I... He stopped, swallowed. Just know. I know. He led her inside. The house was exactly what she expected. Old money translated into marble floors, crystal chandeliers, oil paintings that probably belonged in museums. They walked through hallways lined with family photographs spanning generations. Serious faces, cold eyes, the weight of legacy. They reached a set of double doors. Damien paused, his hand on the handle. "Last chance," he said. Lena squeezed his hand. "Open it." He did. The room beyond was a library that smelled like old leather and cigar smoke. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive fireplace, and seated around a conference table were 8 people who looked like they'd walked out of a corporate board meeting by way of a crime drama. Lucian sat at the head of the table. The others, ranging in age from late 40s to early 70s, watched Lena enter with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. "Lena Vale," Lucian said. "Welcome to the council." Damien pulled out a chair for her at the opposite end of the table from Lucien. She sat. He remained standing behind her, hands on the back of her chair, a silent statement. "Let's skip the pleasantries," said a woman with iron gray hair and shrewd eyes. "Ms. Vale, do you understand what the Moretti family does?" "Yes," Lena said. "Explain it." "You operate businesses, some legitimate, some less so. You have political connections that protect your interests. You move money, influence people, and make problems disappear." Lena kept her voice steady. "You're an empire built on power and fear." Murmurs around the table. "And knowing that," the woman continued, "why would you attach yourself to Damien?" "I didn't attach myself to anyone. He pursued me." "But you stayed." "Yes." "Why?" Lena paused. The truth would sound insane, but Raphael had said not to lie. "Because when I look at him, I don't see the heir to an empire. I see someone who's been taught his whole life that caring about people makes him weak, and that's the saddest thing I've ever heard." Silence crashed through the room. A man with silver hair and a cruel mouth leaned forward. "You think you can save him? Redeem him? Make him soft?" "No. I think he's already more human than any of you give him credit for." Lena met his gaze. "And I think you're all terrified of that." The man's eyes narrowed. "Careful, girl. Why? You're going to threaten me? Follow me? Try to buy me off? Already tried all that." Lena stood. Damien's hands tightened on her shoulders, but she gently moved them aside. "Here's what you need to understand. I'm not leaving. I'm not scared. And I'm not going to apologize for caring about someone you've all spent decades turning into a weapon." "You have no idea what you're talking about," another man snapped. "Then educate me." Lena's voice was sharp now, cutting. "Tell me why loving someone is such a threat to your precious empire. Explain why Damien protecting one person somehow undermines everything you've built. Because from where I'm standing, it just sounds like you're all terrified of losing control." "That's enough," Lucian said quietly. But Lena wasn't finished. "Damien has given you everything, his whole life, his choices, his soul. He's done whatever you asked without question, and the first time he wants something for himself, you treat it like treason." She looked around the table, meeting each set of eyes. "Maybe the real problem isn't me. Maybe it's that you've forgotten what loyalty without love actually looks like. It looks like fear, and empires built on fear don't last." The silence afterward was deafening. Then Lucien started laughing, not cruel, not mocking, genuinely amused. "She's got fire. I'll give her that." "She's got a death wish," the cruel-mouthed man muttered. Lucien stood, moved around the table until he was directly in front of Lena. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "Probably both," Lena said. His smile widened. "Damien, you would really risk everything for this woman?" Damien stepped beside Lena. His hand found hers. "Yes." "Even if it costs you the empire?" "Yes." "Even if it costs you your life?" "Yes." Lucian studied them both for a long moment. Then he looked back at the council. "Anyone else want to weigh in?" The woman with gray hair spoke. "She's a liability, too outspoken, too unpredictable." "She's also right," Lucian said softly. "We have been operating on fear for too long, and fear makes you brittle." He turned back to Damien. "You're sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Lucian nodded slowly. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He extended his hand to Lena. "Welcome to the family." Lena stared at the offered hand, then took it. His grip was firm, Tess-like. "Don't make me regret this," he said quietly, "because if you hurt him, there's nowhere in the world you can hide." "I won't," Lena said. "We'll see." He released her hand, turned to the council. Meeting adjourned. Damien stays on as heir. The woman stays with him. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally. No one spoke. Lucien left the room. One by one, the council members followed. Some nodded to Damien, some glared at Lena. The woman with gray hair paused at the door. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met," she said, "or the most foolish. Time will tell which." Then she was gone. Lena and Damien stood alone in the library. Rain had started again, pattering against the windows. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Damien pulled her into his arms so hard it hurt. "I thought they'd vote against us," he said roughly. "I know. You were incredible. I was terrified. It didn't show." Lena pulled back enough to look at him. His face was raw, open, more vulnerable than she'd ever seen it. "What happens now?" "Now?" Damien's hands cupped her face. "Now, everything changes." He kissed her, deep, claiming, like he'd been holding back for weeks and finally had permission to stop. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Lena whispered, "I'm still scared." "Good," Damien said. "So am I." "What if—" "No what ifs." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "We're past that now, there's no turning back." "The point of no return." "Yes." Lena closed her eyes, felt the weight of what she'd just committed to settling over her like a stone. She just tied herself to a man whose world operated in shadows, a family whose power came with blood on it, a life that would never be simple or safe or normal. She opened her eyes. "Then let's burn together," she said. Damien's smile was fierce, possessive, absolutely devastating. "Together," he agreed, and kissed her again like the world was ending. Because, in a way, it was. Her old life was gone. His carefully controlled existence was shattered. Whatever came next would be built on the wreckage of everything they'd been before. Outside, thunder rolled across Virginia like a warning. Inside, a waitress and a kingpin held each other close and pretended they weren't terrified of what they'd just unleashed. They left the Moretti estate as the sun dropped below the Virginia hills, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and dying gold. Damien drove with one hand on the wheel, the other locked with Lena's across the center console. Neither spoke. The silence between them felt fragile, like speaking would shatter whatever temporary peace they'd won. Lena's phone buzzed. Her mother. She answered. "Hey, Mom." "Lena, honey, where are you?" Vivian's voice sounded strained, worried. "I've been calling all afternoon." "I'm sorry. I was in a meeting. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. A pause. "Can you come by tonight? I need to talk to you about something." Dread coiled in Lena's stomach. "Is it your health?" "No, nothing like that. Just, please come by." "I'll be there in an hour." She hung up. Damien glanced at her, concern flickering across his face. "Everything okay?" "I don't know. She wants to see me." Lena squeezed his hand. "Can you drop me at the care facility?" "I'll come with you." "Damien, I'm coming with you." His tone left no room for argument. 20 minutes later, they pulled into the Georgetown Memorial parking lot. The building looked different at night, less clinical, more haunted. Fluorescent lights buzzed behind windows. A few nurses moved through hallways visible from outside. They found Vivian in the common room, sitting in one of those institutional armchairs that smelled like disinfectant and old fabric. She looked better than she had a week ago, color back in her face, steadier movements, but her expression was troubled. "Mom." Lena crossed to her, leaned down for a hug. "What's going on?" Vivian's eyes landed on Damien standing in the doorway. Something flickered across her face. Recognition. Then something darker. Fear, maybe. "Damien Moretti," she said quietly. "I remember you now." Damien went very still. Lena looked between them. "What?" "The boy I saved 25 years ago." Vivian's voice was steady but strained. "I didn't recognize you at first. You were so young then, barely alive. But I've been thinking about it all week, and then I saw the news, your name attached to that charity gala, and it clicked. She paused. You were the one they brought in with stab wounds, the one the attending wanted to report. Yes, ma'am, Damien said. I told them you deserved a second chance. Vivian's hands twisted in her lap. I believe that. Still do. But Lena, she looked at her daughter. Do you know what family he comes from? What they do? I know. And you're still... Vivian's voice cracked. Baby, these people are dangerous. The things they're connected to... Mom, I know what I'm doing. Do you? Vivian stood, moved toward Lena with surprising strength. Because I've spent my entire career seeing what happens to people who get caught in that world. The violence, the disappearances, the women who end up as collateral damage. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. I didn't save that boy's life so he could destroy my daughter's. The words hit like a slap. Damien stepped forward. Mrs. Vale, I would never... You don't get to make that promise. Vivian's voice was sharp now, hard. You can't control what your family does, what your world does. And Lena, she grabbed her daughter's hands. I love you more than anything, and I'm terrified I'm going to lose you to something I can't protect you from. Lena's throat burned. You're not going to lose me. You don't know that. No, I do. Because I'm not stupid. I'm not naive. Lena's voice cracked. I know exactly what I'm walking into, and I'm choosing it anyway. Why? Vivian's tears spilled over. Why would you choose this? Lena looked at Damien, at the man who'd sat beside her mother's hospital bed all night, who'd faced down his entire family to keep her close, who looked at her like she was the only good thing in a world built on darkness. Because he's worth it, she said simply. Vivian closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they held resignation, grief. Then promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll be smart, that you'll protect yourself, that if it gets too dangerous, you'll walk away. Vivian's hands tightened on Lena's. Promise me you won't sacrifice yourself for someone else's war. The request hung in the air like smoke. Lena wanted to promise, wanted to ease the fear carved into her mother's face, but she'd never been good at lying. I promise I'll try, she said instead. It wasn't enough. She saw it in her mother's expression, but Vivian nodded anyway, pulled her into a fierce hug. I love you, baby, no matter what. I love you too, Mom. They stayed like that for a long moment. Then Vivian pulled back, looked at Damien. Her expression was unreadable. You hurt her, she said quietly, and I don't care how powerful your family is. I will find a way to make you pay. Damien met her gaze steadily. If I hurt her, I'll help you do it. Something passed between them, an understanding. Then Vivian nodded once and sat back down in her chair, suddenly looking exhausted. Lena kissed her mother's forehead. Get some rest. I'll come by tomorrow. They left the common room in heavy silence. In the hallway, Lena pressed her back against the wall, trying to breathe through the tightness in her chest. She's right to be scared, Damien said quietly. I know. We can still stop this. No. Lena pushed off the wall, grabbed his shirt, pulled him close. We're past that. You said it yourself. No turning back. Damien's hands came up to frame her face. I don't want you to regret this. Then don't give me a reason to. He kissed her, soft, gentle, a promise neither of them was sure they could keep. They were halfway to the exit when Lena's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her thumb the accept button. Hello? Lena Vale. The voice was male, smooth, unfamiliar. We need to talk. Who is this? A friend. Someone who wants to help you. Ice shot through her veins. I don't need help. You will. Very soon. A pause. Check your email. I sent you something. Information about the man you're trusting with your life. The line went dead. Lena stared at her phone. Damien was watching her, concern sharpening his features. What is it? Someone just... She pulled up her email. One new message from an encrypted address. No subject line, just an attachment. She opened it. The file was a PDF, scanned documents, police reports, photographs, all dated between 15 and 20 years ago. Her hands started shaking. The first page was a missing persons report. A woman named Elena Castillo, age 23, last seen leaving a restaurant in Georgetown with an unidentified male companion. Never found. The second page showed a photograph of that unidentified male companion caught on a security camera. Young, dark-haired, silver eyes. Damien. Lena's vision blurred. She scrolled to the next page. Another missing person. Maria Santos, age 26, last seen with the same man. Then another, and another. 5 women total over a span of 3 years, all between ages 22 and 28. All last seen with someone matching Damien's description. All disappeared without a trace. The final page was a police report from 20 years ago, a closed case. The lead detective's notes were stamped across the bottom. Insufficient evidence to pursue Moretti family connection. Investigation terminated by order of district attorney. Lena's hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Lena? Damien's voice sounded distant. Wrong. What's wrong? She looked up at him, at the face she'd started to trust, to care about, to maybe even love. Who's Elena Castillo? Her voice came out flat, dead. Damien went white, actually white. The color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. That was answer enough. Lena, I can explain. Who is she? Louder now, sharper. She was... Damien's jaw worked. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Lena shoved the phone at him. Tell me why there are 5 missing women who were all last seen with you. Tell me why the investigation was shut down. Tell me why someone just sent me evidence that you're... She couldn't finish the sentence. Damien looked at the phone, at the document she'd pulled up. His expression was carved from stone. Where did you get this? Someone called me. Sent it to my email. Who? I don't know, her voice cracked. But that's not the point. The point is, Jesus Christ, Damien, did you... She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Did you hurt those women? No. His voice was immediate, firm. I swear to you, I never touched them. Then why? Because I was there. Damien's hands clenched into fists. 20 years ago, when those women went missing, I was working for my uncle, learning the business. And part of that business involved cleaning up problems. Lena's stomach turned. What kind of problems? The kind that involved women who got too close to men in the organization, who knew too much, became liabilities. His voice was hollow, empty. I didn't kill them, but I was there when it happened. I watched. I helped cover it up. Stop. Lena backed away from him. Stop talking. Lena. You helped murder 5 women. Her voice was shaking. You stood by and watched people die, and then you... What? Buried the evidence? Paid off the cops? Made sure no one ever found out? I was 19 years old. Damien's voice cracked. I was being trained, tested. Lucien wanted to see if I had what it took to lead, if I could make the hard choices, and I... He stopped, swallowed hard. I made them. The words settled between them like stones. Lena wanted to vomit, wanted to scream, wanted to run as far and fast as possible from the man standing in front of her, but she couldn't move. Did you know? She whispered. When you pursued me, when you sat by my mother's bed, when you kissed me, did you know someone might send me this? Damien's silence was answer enough. You knew, Lena's voice broke. You knew someone could use this against me, against us, and you pursued me anyway. I thought I could protect you. By lying? By hiding who you really are. I didn't lie, you just didn't tell the truth. Bitter laughter clawed up her throat. That's the same thing. Lena, please, don't. She held up a hand. Don't say my name like that. Don't look at me like I'm the one being unreasonable. You helped kill 5 women and you never thought to mention it before I tied myself to you in front of your entire family? Damien's face was anguish. I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid I'd leave. Yeah, I got that. Lena's hands were still shaking. Well, congratulations. You were right. She turned toward the exit. Damien grabbed her arm. Not hard, not threatening, just desperate. Please, let me explain. Explain what? Lena yanked her arm free. That you were young and stupid? That you were following orders? That you regret it? Tears burned her eyes. None of that brings those women back. None of that changes what you did. I know. Damien's voice was wrecked. I know that. I've lived with it every day for 20 years. The guilt, the nightmares, He stopped, dragged a hand through his hair. I can't undo it. I can't make it right. All I can do is try to be different, better. And you, his voice broke. You made me think I could be. The words hit like a punch. Lena wanted to hold on to her anger, her disgust, her absolute right to walk away from a man who'd helped commit murder. But she saw the truth in his face, the guilt he carried like a second skin, the self-loathing that ran so deep it had become part of his foundation. I need time, she said finally. I need to think. How much time? I don't know. Damien nodded. His expression was devastated. Okay. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't... Her voice cracked. Just give me space. Okay. Lena walked toward the exit. Every step felt like dragging weights. At the door, she paused, didn't turn around. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I believe you didn't kill them yourself. But that doesn't make it better. It just makes it different. Then she left. She made it to the parking lot before the tears came. Made it halfway to the metro station before her legs gave out. She collapsed onto a bus stop bench, buried her face in her hands, and sobbed. Her phone buzzed. A text from the same unknown number. Now you know who you're dealing with. Walk away while you still can. Lena stared at the message through blurred vision. Someone had sent her that information deliberately, timed perfectly to cause maximum damage. Someone wanted her gone. But who? And why now? She didn't go home, couldn't face the empty apartment and the thoughts that would chase her through the dark. Instead, she walked. Miles of DC streets blurring together, past monuments lit up against the night sky, past homeless encampments and late-night diners and the Capitol building glowing white and pristine like it wasn't built on blood and compromise. Around midnight, her phone rang. Raphael. She almost didn't answer, but something made her thumb accept. Ms. Vale. His voice was careful, controlled. Are you all right? How do you know I'm not all right? Because Damien called me an hour ago and he sounded like someone had gutted him. Lena laughed. The sound was ugly. Good. A pause. You saw the files. You knew. It wasn't a question. I'm his attorney. I know everything. And you never thought to warn me? I tried. At my office, when I offered you the money, Raphael's voice was quiet. I told you getting close to him was dangerous, that his past would come back to haunt you. You chose not to listen. You didn't tell me he was complicit in murder. I told you he'd done things the Justice Department spent years trying to prove, that he'd made choices that couldn't be undone. Another pause. You heard what you wanted to hear. The words stung because they were true. Who sent me those files? Lena asked. I don't know, but I have people looking into it. Why would someone want me to know this now? Because you're a threat. Raphael's tone was matter of fact. You passed the counsel test. You're officially part of Damien's life. That makes you dangerous to anyone who wants him weak or distracted or replaced. Someone on the council. Or someone outside the family who sees an opening. Lena closed her eyes. What happens if I walk away? Honestly? Raphael sighed. Nothing good. You know too much now. You've met the council. You've been inside the estate. Walking away doesn't make you safe. It just makes you a loose end. Ice shot through her veins. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you the truth. The only way forward is through. And if I can't stomach being with someone who helped kill 5 women, silence on the other end. Then, those women died because they were liabilities to powerful men. Damien was 19, being trained to inherit an empire built on violence. He didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Not in that world. Not then. Raphael's voice softened slightly. I'm not excusing what he did. I'm explaining the context. Damien has spent 20 years trying to be different from the men who raised him, trying to pull the family toward legitimate business, trying to minimize the violence. He's not perfect, but he's trying. Lena's throat burned. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to make you think. The line went dead. Lena sat on a bench outside Union Station, watching trains arrive and depart, carrying people to lives that made sense. Lives without murder and guilt and impossible choices. Her phone buzzed again. This time, Damien. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to explain everything. Please. She stared at the message. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed, tomorrow, 2 p.m., the coffee shop on M Street. His response came immediately. I'll be there. Easy king. Lena barely slept. When she finally dragged herself out of bed at noon, her eyes were swollen and her head pounded. She showered, dressed in jeans and a sweater, and took the metro to Georgetown. The coffee shop was one of those generic chains where college students studied and professionals held awkward meetings. Lena bought a coffee she didn't want and sat at a corner table watching the door. Damien arrived 5 minutes early. He looked like hell. Dark circles under his eyes. Wrinkled clothes. Hair uncombed. He spotted her, crossed the room with deliberate slowness, sat down across from her without ordering anything. They stared at each other. Talk, Lena said finally. Damien took a breath. Elena Castillo was a paralegal who worked for a law firm that represented one of our competitors. She was dating a captain in our organization, started asking questions about finances, transactions, things she shouldn't have known about. Lena's hands clenched around her coffee cup. Lucian ordered her eliminated. The captain who'd been dating her was supposed to do it himself, prove his loyalty. Damien's voice was flat, mechanical. He couldn't. So Lucian sent me along to make sure it got done. How old were you? 19. And you just watched? No. Damien's jaw tightened. I drove the car. I helped dispose of the body. I made sure there was no evidence linking it back to us. He paused. I did everything except pull the trigger. Lena felt sick. The other 4 women were similar situations. Wrong place, wrong knowledge, wrong man. Damien's eyes were hollow. I was being tested. Lucien wanted to know if I could handle the brutal parts of the business, if I could make the hard choices without hesitation. And you passed. Yes. How does that make you feel? Damien looked at her for a long moment. Like a monster. The honesty was brutal. Do you still do it? Lena asked. Clean up problems like that? No. Not for 15 years. Damien leaned forward. When I took over more of the organization's operations, I changed protocols, started pushing toward legitimate business, threatened to walk away entirely if the council kept ordering hits on civilians. His voice was rough. I can't undo what I did, but I've spent half my life trying to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's not enough. I know. Those women had families, lives, futures. I know. Damien's hands were shaking. I think about them every day. Their faces. What they might have become if I'd made a different choice. Why didn't you? Because I was 19 and terrified and desperate to prove I wasn't weak. His voice cracked. And by the time I understood what I'd done, it was too late to take it back. Lena wanted to hate him, wanted the anger to override everything else, but all she felt was exhaustion. Someone sent me those files deliberately, she said, to drive us apart. I know. Who? I have theories, no proof yet. Damien's silver eyes were intense. But someone on the council isn't happy about you, about us, and they're trying to force your hand. It's working. Pain flashed across his face. I understand. Do you? Lena leaned forward. Because I'm sitting here trying to reconcile the man who sat by my mother's bed with the man who helped murder 5 women. And I can't. Those 2 people don't fit together. They're both me. Damien's voice was quiet. The worst version and the version trying to be better. You've seen both now. And you want me to accept that? No. I want you to understand it. He reached across the table, stopped just short of touching her hand. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to prove I'm not that person anymore. Lena stared at his outstretched hand, at the scars on his knuckles, the evidence of violence worn like a second skin. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. I know. I don't know if I can look at you and not see those women. I know that too. Then why are you here? Damien's eyes were raw, unguarded, because walking away from you would be the worst thing I've ever done, and I've done a lot of terrible things. The words hung between them. Lena closed her eyes, tried to think, tried to feel something other than the crushing weight of impossible choices. When she opened her eyes again, Damien was still watching her, waiting, not pushing, just present. I need more time, she said finally. He nodded, withdrew his hand. How much? I don't know. Okay. But Damien, she forced herself to meet his gaze. If I do this, if I choose to stay, you don't get to hide anything else from me. No more secrets, no more protecting me from the truth. I need to know everything. Okay? I mean it, everything. I understand. Lena stood. Her coffee sat untouched on the table. I'll call you when I'm ready. Damien stood too. For a moment they just looked at each other. Then he said quietly, for what it's worth, meeting you is the best thing that's happened to me in 20 years, even if it ends here. Lena's throat closed. She turned and walked out before the tears could fall again. Outside, the street was crowded with Saturday shoppers and tourists. Normal people living normal lives. Lena envied them so much it physically hurt. She was halfway down the block when a car pulled up beside her. Black sedan, tinted windows. The back door opened. Ms. Vale? A man in a dark suit stepped out. Please get in the car. I'm not getting in the car. It wasn't a request. His hand moved to his jacket, not quite revealing a weapon, just suggesting it was there. Fear shot through her. Who are you? Someone who wants to have a conversation. That's all. The man gestured to the open door. 5 minutes? Then we'll drop you wherever you want to go. Lena's mind raced. She could run, scream, make a scene, but something told her this wasn't random. She got in the car. The man slid in beside her. The door shut. The sedan pulled into traffic smoothly. The driver didn't look back. Sitting across from her in the rear-facing seat was a woman in her 60s. Elegant, cold, expensive clothes and jewelry that screamed old money. Lena Vale, the woman said, I'm Victoria Castellano, and we need to discuss what you're going to do about my son. Lena's blood went cold. Your son? Damien. Victoria's smile was sharp as broken glass. I'm his mother, and you're the problem I've been trying to solve for 3 weeks. The world tilted. Damien had never mentioned his mother, never even implied she was alive. I don't understand, Lena managed. Of course you don't. My son has gotten very good at compartmentalizing. Victoria crossed her legs, every movement calculated. I've been watching you, Lena, ever since Damien dragged you out of that gala like some kind of lovesick fool. I had you followed, investigated. I'm the one who sent you those files. The confession hit like a punch. Why? Lena's voice shook. Because I needed you to see what he really is, what this family really is. Victoria's eyes were ice. My son is being groomed to lead an empire. He doesn't have room for distractions, for weaknesses, for soft-hearted waitresses who make him think he can be something he's not. You tried to destroy us. I tried to save you both. Victoria leaned forward. Damien needs to be ruthless to survive. You make him soft, human, and human men don't last long in our world. Maybe that's not a bad thing. It's a death sentence. Victoria's voice was sharp. I've watched powerful men fall because they let their hearts overrule their judgment. I will not let that happen to my son. Lena's hands clenched into fists. You don't get to make that choice. I already have. Victoria pulled an envelope from her purse, tossed it onto Lena's lap. Inside is a first-class ticket to anywhere in the world, a bank account with $500,000, and new identity documents that will allow you to disappear completely. Lena stared at the envelope. You're trying to buy me off. Again. I'm giving you an escape. Victoria's expression was almost sympathetic. You're a good person, Lena. I can see that. But good people don't survive in our world. They get eaten alive. And I refuse to watch my son fall in love with someone I'll have to bury 6 months from now. That's not your decision. Then let me make this very clear. Victoria's voice dropped, went cold. If you don't take this offer, I will make your life a living hell. Your mother's care facility will suddenly have problems with their licensing. The pharmacy where you work will discover discrepancies in their inventory and blame you. Your landlord will find reasons to evict you." She paused. "And those are the gentle options." Threat hung in the air like smoke. "You'd destroy me to save your son?" Lena's voice shook. "I'd do anything to save my son." Victoria's eyes were steel, including protect him from himself. The car stopped. They were back outside the coffee shop. The door opened. "You have 48 hours, Victoria said. "Take the money and run, or stay and watch everything you love burn." The man in the suit gestured for Lena to get out. She climbed from the car on shaking legs. The envelope clutched in her hands. The sedan pulled away, disappearing into traffic. Lena stood on the sidewalk, her mind spinning, her heart hammering. She looked down at the envelope. $500,000. Freedom. Safety. All she had to do was abandon Damien to a family that saw love as weakness and humanity as a liability. Her phone buzzed. "Damien, are you okay? Someone just told me they saw you get into a car." Lena stared at the message, then at the envelope, then at her reflection in a storefront window. She looked like a woman standing at a crossroads, and for the first time since this entire nightmare started, she had absolutely no idea which direction to turn. Lena stood on the sidewalk clutching that envelope like it was a live grenade. Her phone kept buzzing. Damien calling, then texting, then calling again. She ignored all of it. $500,000. A new life. Safety. All she had to do was run. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone when she finally typed back, "I'm fine, need to think. Don't follow me." She didn't wait for his response, just turned and walked. No destination, just movement. Anything to keep her body ahead of her thoughts. By the time her legs finally gave out, she was somewhere in Adams Morgan, a neighborhood bar with peeling paint and neon beer signs flickering in the window. She went inside, ordered whiskey, drank it too fast, ordered another. The envelope sat on the bar beside her drink, mocking her. "Rough day?" The bartender was a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and sleeve tattoos. "Something like that." "Want to talk about it?" Lena laughed. The sound was broken. "Not unless you're a therapist who specializes in criminal enterprises and impossible choices." The bartender raised an eyebrow. "I'm a bartender in D.C. I've heard worse." She refilled Lena's glass without being asked. "This one's on the house." Lena drank. The whiskey burned. Didn't help. Her phone buzzed. Not Damien this time. Raphael. "We need to talk. Now. It's urgent." She called him back. He answered immediately. "Where are you?" Raphael's voice was sharp. Controlled panic barely contained. "A bar. Why?" "Which bar?" "Why does it matter?" "Because Victoria Castellano just left the country on a private jet, and before she did, she activated a contingency plan that's about to destroy everything." Raphael's words came fast, clipped. "Where are you?" Lena gave him the address. "What contingency plan?" "I'll explain when I get there. Don't leave, don't talk to anyone, and for God's sake, don't drink anything else." The line went dead. Lena stared at her phone, cold dread pooled in her stomach. She pushed the whiskey away. Raphael arrived 12 minutes later. He looked like he'd driven through rush-hour traffic at 90 miles an hour. His suit was rumpled. His tie was gone. He slid onto the bar stool beside her, ordered coffee, didn't drink it. "Victoria gave you an envelope," he said. "How did you—" "I have eyes everywhere." "What's in it?" Lena slid the envelope across the bar. Raphael opened it. His jaw tightened as he scanned the contents. $500,000. His voice was flat. "New identity. First-class ticket anywhere." He looked at her. "She gave you an escape." "She gave me a threat." Lena's hands clenched into fists. "Take the money or watch everything I love burn." "That sounds like Victoria." Raphael closed the envelope. "Did she tell you why she's doing this?" "To protect Damien. She thinks I make him weak." "She's wrong. You make him human." "That's what terrifies her." Raphael pulled out his phone, showed her a document. "This is a federal indictment, sealed, waiting for the right moment to be activated." Lena's blood went cold. "Indictment for what?" "Everything. RICO charges, money laundering, conspiracy, witness tampering, tax evasion." Raphael's voice was grim. The Justice Department has been building a case against the Moretti family for 7 years. They've been waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and Victoria just handed it to them. I don't understand. She made a deal. Raphael's eyes were hard. She gave federal prosecutors everything they need to bring down Lucien, the council, and most of the organization's operations. In exchange, Damien gets immunity, full protection. The words hit like a sledgehammer. She's destroying the family to save him, Lena whispered. Yes. And it gets worse. Raphael leaned closer. The indictment goes active in 48 hours. Same timeline she gave you to disappear. That's not a coincidence. She wants me gone before Damien's world explodes. Yes, because if you're still here when it happens, you become a witness, a liability, someone the prosecution can use to strengthen their case. Raphael's voice was urgent. If you stay, you'll be subpoenaed, forced to testify, and anything Damien has told you becomes evidence. Lena's mind spun. What happens to Damien? If he cooperates with the prosecution, nothing. He walks away clean, starts over. Raphael paused. But his entire family goes to prison. Everyone he's known his whole life, and he lives with knowing his mother destroyed them to save him. And if he doesn't cooperate, then he goes down with them. The bar around them felt distant, unreal. Lena forced herself to breathe. Does he know? Not yet. I just found out an hour ago. Raphael's expression was grim. I've spent the last hour trying to verify it through my contacts. It's real. The indictment is real. Victoria's deal is real. And in 48 hours, the entire Moretti empire collapses. Lena's hands were shaking again. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what staying costs. Raphael's voice softened slightly. If you take Victoria's offer and run, you're safe. Clean. You can build the life you wanted, but if you stay, I become part of the wreckage. Yes. Lena stared at the envelope, at the promise of freedom, safety, everything she'd ever wanted. Then she thought about Damien, about the man who'd sat beside her mother's bed all night, who'd faced down his entire family to keep her close, who'd been honest about his worst sins because she demanded the truth. I need to see him, she said. Raphael's expression flickered. Relief, maybe, or fear. I'll drive you. Okay. The Moretti estate was dark when they arrived. Storm clouds had rolled in, turning the Virginia sky the color of a bruise. Raphael pulled up to the front gates. They opened automatically. No guards visible. That felt wrong. Where is everyone? Lena asked. Emergency council meeting. Raphael's voice was tight. Lucien called it an hour ago. Something about internal security threats. He knows. Probably. They parked in front of the main house. Raphael killed the engine. Neither of them moved. Last chance, Raphael said quietly. I can still get you out. Put you on a plane tonight. New name, new life. Safe. No. Lena? I said no. She opened the car door. Where's Damien? Raphael pointed toward the back of the property. His private residence? The guest house past the gardens. Lena got out. Rain had started to fall, cold, sharp. She walked through the gardens, perfectly manicured even in the storm, toward a smaller building set back from the main house. Lights glowed in the windows. She knocked. No answer. Tried the door. Unlocked. Inside was a space that looked nothing like the main house. No marble. No chandeliers. Just clean lines, dark wood, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the woods. Books everywhere. Art that looked chosen for meaning rather than value. Damien stood at the windows, hands in his pockets, staring out at the storm. He didn't turn when she entered. Raphael told you, he said quietly. Yes. My mother's deal. Yes. The indictment. All of it. Damien was chimashin for a long moment. Then, you should take her offer. Lena crossed the room, stood beside him. No. $500,000, new identity, freedom. His voice was hollow. It's a good deal. I don't want it. You should. Stop telling me what I should want. Lena grabbed his arm, forced him to look at her. Your mother tried to destroy us, tried to buy me off, threatened to ruin my life. And now she's dismantling your entire world to save you. Do you understand how insane that is? She's protecting me the only way she knows how. By burning down everything you've built? Everyone you know? Lena's voice cracked. That's not protection. That's betrayal. Damien's laugh was bitter. She learned from the best. My family operates on betrayal. It's our currency. Then don't be like them. I am like them. His silver eyes were raw, exhausted. I'm exactly like them. That's the problem. No. Lena's hands fisted in his shirt. You're not. Because if you were, you would have let me walk away weeks ago. You wouldn't have told me the truth about those women. You wouldn't be standing here looking like your heart's being ripped out. Maybe I'm just a better actor than you think. You're a terrible actor. Tears burned her eyes. I see right through you. Always have. Damien stared at her. Something in his expression cracked. He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. His whole body was shaking. I don't know what to do, he whispered. If I cooperate with the prosecution, my family goes to prison. If I don't, I go down with them. And either way, I lose everything. Not everything. Lena pulled back enough to look at him. You don't lose me. You should run. I'm not running. Lena, I'm not running. Her voice broke. So stop asking me to. Stop trying to protect me from choices I'm making with my eyes wide open. I know what staying costs. I don't care. You should care. Too late. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. I love you, and I'm not leaving. So figure out what you're going to do about your mother's deal, because we're doing it together. The words hung in the air between them. Damien stared at her like she'd just spoken a foreign language. You love me. Yes. After everything. His hands came up to frame her face, trembling. I don't deserve that. Probably not. Lena's tears were falling now. But you have it anyway. Damien kissed her, desperate, claiming, like she was the only solid thing left in a world dissolving around him. Lena kissed him back with everything she had, fear and love and absolute certainty that this was the right choice, even if it destroyed her. When they broke apart, both gasping, Damien pressed his forehead against hers. We need a plan, he said. Yes. Something that doesn't end with you testifying against my family or me in prison. Preferably. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You're insane for staying. Completely. The moment shattered when the front door exploded inward. Damien moved instantly, shoving Lena behind him. 3 men in tactical gear stormed in, weapons drawn. Not police, not federal agents, private security, the kind that didn't ask questions. Damien Moretti. The lead man's voice was muffled behind a mask. You're coming with us. Like hell. Damien's voice was ice. Who sent you? Does it matter? The man raised his weapon. Damien didn't flinch. Then Raphael appeared in the doorway behind them, his own gun drawn. Drop them, now! The tactical team spun. A standoff. 3 masked men with rifles, 1 attorney with a pistol. The math wasn't good. Walk away, DeLuca, the lead man said. This doesn't concern you. Everything concerning Damien concerns me. Raphael's voice was steady, calm. So I'll say it again. Drop your weapons. Can't do that. Then we have a problem. The tension in the room was suffocating. Lena's heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Damien's hand found hers behind his back, squeezed once. A silent message. Then the windows exploded. More tactical team members crashed through, glass raining down like deadly snow. Damien yanked Lena to the ground, covering her with his body. Gunfire erupted. Raphael returned fire. Someone screamed, "Go!" Damien hauled Lena to her feet, dragged her toward the back hallway. Kitchen, out the back! They ran. Behind them, more gunfire, shouting, the sound of furniture splintering. The kitchen was chaos. Damien kicked open the back door. They burst into the storm. Rain hammered down. Lightning split the sky. Who are they? Lena shouted over the thunder. I don't know. Damien pulled her toward the tree line. But they're not here to talk. They made it 10 feet before more masked figures emerged from the darkness. Surrounding them, 6 men, all armed. Damien stopped, put himself between Lena and the nearest gun. What do you want? You. Alive. The voice came from behind them. Familiar. Lucien stepped out of the shadows. No mask, no weapon, just cold silver eyes that matched his nephew's. "Uncle," Damien's voice was steel, "this is a new low, even for you." "Is it?" Lucien moved closer. Rain soaked his expensive suit. He didn't seem to notice. "Your mother made a deal that destroys this family, and you—" His gaze shifted to Lena. "You've been too busy playing house to notice the knife at our throats." "I noticed." "Then you know we have 48 hours before federal agents arrest everyone on the council." Lucien's voice was harsh. "Everyone except you, because Victoria made sure her precious son gets immunity." "I didn't ask for that." "Doesn't matter, you're the only one walking away clean, which means you're either with us or you're a witness." Lucien's expression hardened. "So I'm removing the choice. You're coming with me. Tonight. We disappear, regroup, build something new far from federal jurisdiction. And if I refuse? Then you become the same liability your mother feared this girl was." Lucien gestured to Lena. "And we eliminate liabilities." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Damien's hand tightened around Lena's. "You'd kill me?" "I do what's necessary to protect what we've built." Lucien's voice was almost sad. "I raised you, Damien, taught you everything, loved you like a son, but I won't let you destroy 3 generations of work because your mother got sentimental and you fell in love." "This is insane. This is survival." Lucien's control cracked. "Your mother betrayed us, handed federal prosecutors everything. Do you understand what that means? The empire, everything we've protected, everything we've built, it's gone. Unless we act now. By running. By regrouping." Lucien stepped closer. "Come with me. We'll leave the country. Set up operations somewhere the DOJ can't touch us. Start over. And Lena? She's a complication we can't afford." The words were a death sentence. Damien moved fast. Faster than Lena had ever seen anyone move. He grabbed the nearest tactical team member, twisted the rifle from his hands, had it aimed at Lucien's head in under 2 seconds. Everyone froze. "You don't touch her," Damien said quietly. "Ever." Lucien stared down the barrel of the gun. No fear in his expression, just disappointment. "You'd choose her over family?" "Yes." "Even if it costs you everything?" "I already lost everything the day I became what you wanted me to be." Damien's voice was rough, raw. "I'm done. No more running, no more compromises, I'm testifying." The words detonated through the clearing like a bomb. "You don't mean that," Lucien said carefully. "I do." Damien kept the rifle steady. "I'll cooperate fully with the prosecution, give them everything they need, and in exchange, Lena walks away from this with full immunity and protection." "They'll never agree to that." "They will if I give them enough." Damien's silver eyes were cold as winter. "I know things even you don't know, Uncle. Things that will bring down half the organized crime infrastructure on the East Coast. The Justice Department will take that deal." Lucien's expression was anguish. "You'd betray us?" "You betrayed yourselves the moment you made love a liability instead of a strength." Damien's voice cracked. "I'm choosing differently. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I want instead of what you need. You're signing your own death warrant. You know that, right?" Lucien's voice was almost gentle. "The families we do business with don't forgive informants. You cooperate with the feds, and you're a dead man walking. Then I die." Damien's hand found Lena's again. "But at least I die as something other than your weapon." Silence crashed over the clearing. Rain kept falling. Thunder rolled. Then Raphael appeared from the tree line, phone to his ear. "Federal agents are 2 minutes out. Someone made a call." Everyone moved at once. The tactical team scattered into the darkness. Lucien stood his ground, staring at Damien with an expression that looked like grief. "You were supposed to be different," he said quietly. "Better than me. Stronger." "I am different." Damien lowered the rifle. "Just not the way you wanted." Lucien nodded once. Then he melted into the shadows, disappearing like he'd never been there. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer, Raphael grabbed Damien's arm. "We need to go, now, before the feds get here and start making arrests." "Where?" "My office. I'll contact the prosecutor. Negotiate your cooperation in exchange for full immunity for both of you." Raphael looked at Lena. "You're officially a protected witness as of right now." Don't talk to anyone except me and the federal attorneys, understand? Lena nodded. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was spinning. They ran to Raphael's car, piled in. He drove like a man possessed, tearing down the estate's driveway just as black SUVs with federal plates poured through the gates. Lena looked back. The Moretti estate was swarming with agents, lights, chaos. Damien's entire world was collapsing in real time. She grabbed his hand. He held on like she was the only thing keeping him from drowning. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for all of this. For dragging you into, Don't." Lena squeezed his hand. "We're in it together. Remember?" "Together," he echoed. Raphael's phone rang. He answered on speaker. A woman's voice, professional, sharp. "Mr. DeLuca, this is Assistant U.S. Attorney Margaret Chen. I understand your client wants to cooperate." "That's correct," Raphael said. "Full disclosure, everything he knows, and he testifies against every member of the Moretti organization. In exchange for full immunity for him and Lena Vale, plus witness protection, non-negotiable." A pause. Then, "Agreed. Bring him in. Tonight. We'll hash out the details." The line went dead. Lena looked at Damien. His face was carved from stone, but his hand in hers was trembling. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "There might be another way." "There isn't." His voice was flat, final. "This is the only way you stay safe, so I'm doing it." "Damien, I'm doing it." He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "And I'd make the same choice 1,000 times over." Raphael's car tore through D.C. streets toward the federal building. Behind them, the Moretti empire burned. Ahead, an uncertain future built on testimony and betrayal. Lena held on to Damien and tried not to think about what came next. But in the back of her mind, one thought kept circling. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because empires don't fall quietly, and the people who built them don't forgive. They reached the federal building just as midnight struck. Raphael parked in the secure garage, led them through concrete corridors that smelled like institution and desperation. Armed marshals appeared, flanking them. "This way." They were taken to a conference room, sterile, cold, a table, chairs, recording equipment. Assistant U.S. Attorney Margaret Chen was already there. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, suit that cost less than Damien's watch, but wore like armor. "Mr. Moretti," she gestured to a chair. "Sit. We have a lot to discuss." Damien sat. Lena moved to sit beside him. "Ms. Vale stays in the other room," Chen said. "No!" Damien's voice was steel. "She stays with me or I don't talk." Chen's jaw tightened. "This is highly irregular. I don't care, those are my terms." A staring contest. Chen broke first. "Fine, but she doesn't speak. And anything said in this room is on the record." "Understood." Chen sat across from them, pulled out a tablet, swiped it on. "Let's start with the basics. You're willing to provide testimony against Lucien Moretti, the entire council, and any associated criminal enterprises in exchange for immunity." "Yes. And you understand that cooperation means full disclosure. Every crime you've witnessed, every transaction you know about, every body you helped bury." Damien's hand tightened on Lena's under the table. "Yes." "Good." Chen's smile was sharp. "Then let's begin. Tell me about Elena Castillo." The name hit like a bomb. Damien went white. "How did you—" "We've had those files for 7 years. We just couldn't prove your involvement." Chen leaned forward. "But now you're going to tell us everything, starting with her, then Maria Santos, then the other 3 women who disappeared while you were being trained." Lena felt Damien's hand shaking in hers, felt the weight of his past crashing down on both of them. This was it. The moment everything became real. The moment he stopped being the heir to an empire and became the man who destroyed it. Chen pressed record. "Whenever you're ready, Mr. Moretti." Damien took a breath, looked at Lena. She nodded, and he started talking. The truth spilled out like blood from a wound. Every detail, every name, every crime. The conference room filled with the weight of 20 years of violence and compromise and choices that couldn't be undone. Lena held his hand through all of it. Outside, dawn was breaking over Washington, D.C. Inside, Damien Moretti was burning his entire world to the ground. and there was no going back. Damien talked for 6 hours straight. His voice went hoarse around hour 3. Margaret Chen offered water. He drank it mechanically and kept talking. Names, dates, locations, bank accounts hidden in countries that didn't ask questions, politicians who took money and looked the other way, judges who made cases disappear, construction contracts that laundered millions, union officials who enforced loyalty with baseball bats and threats, and the bodies. All 5 women, where they were buried, who pulled the triggers, how the evidence was destroyed. Lena sat beside him through every word. Her hand never left his, even when the details made her stomach turn, even when she wanted to run screaming from the room, she stayed. By the time dawn light filled the conference room windows, Chen had enough evidence to dismantle 3 generations of criminal infrastructure. She leaned back in her chair, studying Damien with something that might have been respect or might have been pity. "That's everything?" she asked. "Everything I know," Damien said. His voice was wrecked, hollow. "Good." Chen closed her tablet. "We'll need you to testify before a grand jury, then at trial. Probably multiple trials. This is going to take months, maybe years." "I understand. And you understand that the moment this becomes public, you're a target, not just from the Moretti organization, from every family they've done business with." Chen's expression was grim. "Informants don't last long, even protected ones." "I know. Then you're either very brave or very stupid." "Both," Lena said quietly. "Definitely both." Chen's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Fair enough." She stood. "We're putting you both in protective custody. Separate safe houses for now, different locations. Marshals will be with you 24/7. "No." Damien's hand tightened on Lena's. "We stay together." "That's not protocol." "I don't care about protocol." Damien's voice was steel despite the exhaustion. "She stays with me. That's non-negotiable." Chen sighed. "I'll see what I can do. But understand, the more people in one location, the harder it is to keep secure." "We'll manage." "Your funeral." Chen gathered her files. "Marshals will escort you out. Don't contact anyone, don't go anywhere alone, and for God's sake, don't do anything stupid." She left. The door closed. For the first time in hours, Lena and Damien were alone. He looked at her. Really looked at her. His face was gray with exhaustion. His eyes were red. But beneath all that was something raw and grateful. "You stayed," he whispered. "Of course I stayed." After hearing all of that, I already knew the worst parts. Lena's throat was tight. Hearing the details didn't change anything. It should have. Well, it didn't. She cupped his face. "You just destroyed your entire life to keep me safe, so shut up and let me love you." Damien pulled her into his arms, held her so tightly she could barely breathe. His whole body was shaking. "I don't know what happens now," he said into her hair. "Neither do I. I might die. Someone will probably try to kill me." "Probably." "And you're still staying?" "Yes." He pulled back enough to look at her. His silver eyes were wet. "Why?" "Because someone has to," Lena's voice cracked. "Because you spent your whole life being what everyone else needed you to be, and I'm not letting you face what comes next alone." Damien kissed her, soft, desperate, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. The door opened. 2 U.S. Marshals in tactical gear stepped inside. "Time to move." The safe house was in rural Maryland, an hour outside D.C. in a nowhere town surrounded by farmland and trees. The house itself was nondescript, ranch-style, beige siding, the kind of place that disappeared into the landscape, deliberately forgettable. 2 marshals stood guard outside. 2 more patrolled the perimeter. Inside, the furniture was generic and uncomfortable. Government issue everything. But it was safe. Lena collapsed onto the couch. Her body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Damien sat beside her, staring at nothing. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That my mother is somewhere drinking champagne and congratulating herself for saving me." His voice was bitter. "That Lucien is probably already in Argentina or Singapore planning his next move. That everyone I've known my entire life now wants me dead. Don't forget the good news." He looked at her. "What good news?" "You're still breathing. I'm still breathing. That's more than we had 12 hours ago." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You're an optimist. I'm a realist who's tired of being miserable. Lena leaned against him. We survived. That's not nothing. They sat in silence. Outside, birds were singing, normal sounds. The world kept turning despite everything. Lena's phone buzzed. She'd almost forgotten she still had it. The screen showed a blocked number. She answered. Ms. Vale. Victoria Castellano's voice was cool as winter. I hear you made your choice. Lena's blood went cold. How did you get this number? I have resources you can't imagine, even now. Victoria paused. I also hear my son is cooperating with federal prosecutors, burning down everything I tried to save. You mean everything you destroyed to save yourself? I destroyed nothing. I made the hard choice no one else would make. Victoria's voice was sharp. And now Damien will spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, knowing someone is always one step behind, ready to pull the trigger. He's willing to take that risk because of you. Yes. Then his blood is on your hands. Victoria's voice went cold. I gave you a way out. You refused. So when someone puts a bullet in his head, remember, you could have prevented it. The line went dead. Lena sat there, phone trembling in her hand. Damien took it from her gently. What did she say? That you're going to die. And it's my fault. She's wrong. Is she? Lena's voice cracked. If I'd taken her money and run, you wouldn't be a target. I'd also be alone, living a lie, becoming exactly what they wanted me to be. Damien pulled her close. This, us, it's the first real thing I've had in 20 years. Whatever happens, it was worth it. Even if it kills you? Even then. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to scream that love wasn't worth dying for. But looking at his face, exhausted and raw and more human than she'd ever seen it, she knew he meant every word. Then we fight, she said, together, however long we have. Together, he agreed. Quote, the first week in protective custody was brutal. Marshals controlled everything, when they ate, when they slept, when they could go outside. The perimeter was checked hourly. Every delivery was searched, every phone call monitored. Lena felt like a prisoner, but she was alive. So was Damien. That had to count for something. On day 8, Raphael arrived. He looked exhausted. His suit was wrinkled. His tie was missing. He had a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. I have news, he said. Some good, some bad. Start with the bad, Damien said. Lucien disappeared, completely. He's either dead or in a country with no extradition. Either way, he's beyond federal reach. Raphael paused. But 2 other council members were arrested this morning. They're cooperating, giving up names to reduce their sentences. Which names? Everyone. The entire operation is collapsing. Raphael looked grim. Within 6 months, the Moretti Empire will be dismantled completely. Everything your family built will be gone. Damien was silent for a long moment. Then, good. Raphael blinked. Good? It was built on blood. Let it burn. Damien's voice was flat. What's the good news? The Justice Department is offering you a new deal. Full immunity maintained, witness protection for both of you, new identities, relocation anywhere in the country. Raphael opened his briefcase, pulled out documents. You'd be ghosts, completely untraceable. Lena's heart hammered. When? As soon as the grand jury testimony is complete. 2 weeks, maybe 3. 2 weeks. Then they could disappear, start over, be anyone they wanted. It sounded too good to be true. What's the catch? Damien asked. You never come back. Not to D.C., not to the East Coast. You sever all ties with anyone from your old life. Raphael's expression was sad. Including me. Once you disappear, we can't have contact. It's too dangerous. Damien looked at the man who'd been his attorney, advisor, and closest thing to a friend for 15 years. Raphael, I know. Raphael's voice was thick. But it's the only way you stay alive, so we do it. He cleared his throat. I'll handle everything on this end. Make sure your mother doesn't find you. Make sure anyone looking for revenge hits dead ends. Thank you, Damien's voice cracked, for everything. Don't thank me yet. We still have to get you through the next 2 weeks without anyone putting a bullet in you. That's. The grand jury testimony happened in a secure federal courthouse. Damien spent 3 days recounting everything he'd told Chen. The jury indicted 47 people. Racketeering, money laundering, murder, conspiracy. The news broke like a bomb. Every major outlet ran the story. The Moretti crime family, brought down by the heir himself. Talking heads debated whether Damien was a hero or a traitor, whether he deserved immunity or prison. Lena watched it all from the safe house. Watched Damien's face appear on television. Watched his life dissected by strangers who knew nothing about the choices that brought him here. "Turn it off," Damien said quietly. She did. They sat in silence. "Do you regret it?" Lena asked, testifying. Damien was quiet for a long time. Then, "No. I regret what I did 20 years ago. I regret not walking away sooner. But this?" He looked at her. "This was the only choice that let me keep you. So no, I don't regret it." 3 days later, the first attempt happened. Lena was in the kitchen making coffee when the window exploded. Gunfire tore through the safe house. Marshals returned fire. Damien tackled her to the ground, covering her body with his. The attack lasted 90 seconds. Then silence. 2 attackers dead. 1 marshal wounded. Everyone else alive. "We need to move you," the lead marshal said. Blood ran down his arm from a graze wound. "Now." They were relocated to a different safe house, then another. 3 moves in 2 weeks. Each time the marshals found them. Not federal agents, professional killers. People with resources and motivation and nothing to lose. "They're not going to stop," Damien said after the 3rd attempt. "Someone leaked our locations, someone inside." "You don't know that," Raphael said over an encrypted call. "I know how my family operates. They have people everywhere, even in federal agencies." Damien's voice was harsh. "We're sitting ducks as long as we're in protective custody. What are you suggesting? We disappear, tonight, before they can find us again." "That's insane. It's the only way we survive." Damien looked at Lena. "Are you with me?" She thought about running, about spending the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, about abandoning everything familiar to become someone new. Then she thought about the alternative, living in fear, waiting for the next bullet, watching Damien die because someone decided he was worth more dead than alive. "I'm with you," she said. Raphael was silent. Then, "I can get you documents, money, a car. But once you run, you're on your own. The marshals won't protect fugitives from their own custody." "I understand. Damien, I'm doing this, with or without your help." Another pause. Then, "Give me 24 hours. Raphael delivered. New identities, social security numbers, birth certificates, credit histories. All flawless. A car registered to their new names, cash and non-sequential bills, and a folder with addresses of 3 different cities where they could disappear. "Pick one," Raphael said. "Don't tell me which, just go, and don't look back." Damien embraced him. "Thank you. For everything. Don't get killed." Raphael's voice was thick. "That's all the thanks I need." They left at 2 a.m. while the marshals were changing shifts. Slipped out through a basement window Raphael had left unlocked. Got in the car. Drove. Lena navigated while Damien drove. They headed west. Away from D.C., away from everything they'd known. Somewhere in Pennsylvania, as the sun started to rise, Damien pulled over at a rest stop. "Where do you want to go?" he asked. Lena looked at the folder. 3 cities, 3 different futures. Portland, Austin, Denver. She closed her eyes. Thought about who she wanted to be. Who they could become. "Portland," she said. "As far from D.C. as we can get." Damien nodded, put the car in gear. They drove. Achan. Portland was rain and coffee shops and people who didn't ask questions. They rented a small house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, just a place to breathe. The first month was hardest, learning their new names, building new routines, looking over their shoulders constantly, expecting bullets that never came. But slowly, carefully, they started to build something. Damien got a job in construction. Real construction, building things instead of tearing them down. He came home exhausted and covered in sawdust. It looked good on him. Lena enrolled in community college. started taking education classes. Her teaching degree was finally within reach. They didn't talk about DC, about the trials that would happen without Damien's testimony, about the family he'd destroyed, about the people who still wanted him dead. They just lived. 6 months in, Lena's mother came to visit. She'd been relocated too, different city, different name, but still Vivian, still fierce and loving and worried about her daughter. "You look happy," she said, watching Lena and Damien in the kitchen cooking dinner together. "I am," Lena said, surprisingly. "Even after everything?" "Because of everything," Lena smiled. "We survived. That's more than most people get." Vivian pulled her daughter close. "I'm proud of you for choosing love even when it was terrifying. I learned from the best." They had 3 days together. Then Vivian had to leave. Too dangerous to stay longer, but those 3 days were enough. Proof that some connections survived even when everything else burned. A year after they disappeared, Lena woke up to find Damien sitting on their small back porch, watching the sun rise through the trees. He did this sometimes, got quiet, distant, lost in thoughts he couldn't share. She joined him, handed him coffee, sat close. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I should be dead." His voice was quiet, that every day I'm alive is borrowed time. "Then let's make it count." He looked at her. Those silver eyes that had once been so cold now held something warmer, softer. "I never thought I could have this. A normal life. Waking up next to someone I love. Building something instead of destroying it. You have it now. Because of you. Because of us." Lena took his hand. "You made the choice to walk away, to testify, to risk everything. I just chose to walk with you." Damien pulled her close. They sat together as the sun climbed higher, painting the world in shades of gold. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Giving up your old life?" Lena thought about it, about the jobs she'd worked, the apartment she'd left behind, the version of herself who'd been drowning in medical bills and exhaustion. "No," she said honestly. "That life was killing me slowly. This one, even with the fear, even with the running, it's mine. We chose it together." "Together," he echoed. A word that had become their promise, their foundation, the only truth that mattered. Yet, 2 years after Portland, they were still alive. No more attempts, no more running. Either the people hunting Damien had given up or they'd lost the trail completely. Lena graduated with her teaching degree, got a job at an elementary school in a low-income neighborhood. Kids who needed someone to see them, to believe in them. She was good at it. It filled something inside her she hadn't known was empty. Damien started his own contracting company. Small scale, honest work. He hired people like him, former criminals trying to build something different. Gave them second chances no one else would. They bought a house. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms and a yard where they planted vegetables that mostly died but sometimes survived. They were happy, not perfect. Damien still had nightmares. Still woke up sometimes in a cold sweat, reaching for weapons that weren't there. Still carried guilt that would never fully fade. But he was trying. Every day he was trying to be better than what he'd been. And Lena saw him, really saw him. Not the heir to an empire, not the man who'd helped bury bodies, just Damien, flawed and human and hers. One evening, 3 years after they'd disappeared, Lena came home from work to find Damien in the kitchen. He'd cooked dinner, set the table with candles. "What's the occasion?" she asked. "Do I need an occasion to cook for my—" He stopped, smiled, pulled a small box from his pocket. Lena's breath caught. "I've been carrying this for 6 months," Damien said. His hands were shaking, trying to find the right moment. But I realized there is no right moment. Just this. Us. Now. He opened the box. A simple silver band. No diamonds, no flash, just solid and real and perfect. "Lena Vale," his voice cracked. "Will you marry me?" She should have said yes immediately, should have thrown her arms around him and laughed and cried. Instead, she said, "That's not my name anymore." Damien blinked. "What?" "Lena Vale doesn't exist. She died 3 years ago." She took the ring from the box, held it up to the candlelight. "But whoever I am now, Whoever we're pretending to be, she loves you more than anything. So, yes, I'll marry you. Damien laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bright and real and utterly beautiful. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. They got married 3 months later. Small ceremony. Just them, an officiant, and 2 witnesses pulled from a local coffee shop. No family, no friends from their old lives. Just the beginning of something new. Lena wore a simple white dress she found at a thrift store. Damien wore the same suit he'd worn to job interviews. They said vows they'd written themselves. Promised to keep choosing each other every day, no matter what. When the officiant said they could kiss, Damien pulled Lena close and whispered, "Thank you for saving me." "We saved each other," she whispered back. Then they kissed, and the world felt right. "5 years after Portland, Lena was pregnant. They hadn't planned it, hadn't even discussed it. But when the test came back positive, something shifted. Fear, yes, but also hope. The idea that they could create something pure from all the wreckage they'd survived. Damien was terrified. "I don't know how to be a father. My childhood was..." "Then you'll do it differently." Lena took his hand, placed it on her still flat stomach. "You'll teach our kid what real strength looks like. Not violence, not control, just showing up every day and trying to be better." He stared at her stomach like it held the entire universe. "What if I fail?" "Then we fail together." She smiled, like everything else. Their daughter was born on a rainy November evening. 8 pounds, healthy lungs, dark hair and silver eyes that looked exactly like her father's. They named her Sarah, short for Serafina, a name that meant fiery one. Fighter. The first time Damien held her, he cried. Actually cried. Tears streaming down his face while this tiny human slept in his arms. "I'm going to protect you," he whispered to her. "I'm going to be better than what I came from. I promise." Lena watched her husband, this man who'd once helped bury bodies, who'd destroyed an empire to keep her safe, who'd rebuilt himself from nothing, and saw only love. "You already are," she said. Phew. 7 years after they disappeared, Raphael made contact. A letter. No return address. Forwarded through multiple dummy addresses to maintain safety. But his handwriting was unmistakable. The trials are over. Most of them, anyway. Lucienne was never found. "Your mother is in Monaco, last I heard. Living well on money she squirreled away. The organization is completely dismantled. The few who avoided prison are scattered. Old men telling stories about glory days that are never coming back. You're safe as you're ever going to be. The people who wanted you dead have either forgotten or died themselves. Time is a funny thing that way. I hope you've built something good. I hope you're happy. You deserve it, both of you. Don't write back. Don't try to contact me. This is goodbye. But know that what you did mattered, not just the testimony, the choice. Walking away from power to choose love. That mattered. Be well. R." Damien read the letter 3 times, then burned it in the fireplace. "It's really over," Lena said. "Maybe." Damien watched the paper turn to ash. "Or maybe it's just beginning." "What do you mean?" He pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. "We're not running anymore. We're not hiding. We're just living, building something real. That's the real victory." Lena leaned into him, listened to his heartbeat, steady, strong, alive. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." Sarah toddled into the room. 2 years old now, fearless and curious and everything they'd hoped for. "Daddy, up!" she demanded. Damien scooped her up, spun her around until she shrieked with laughter. Lena watched them, her family, built from ashes and impossible choices and love that refused to quit. Outside, rain fell softly. Inside, warmth and light and the sound of a child laughing. This was what they'd fought for. This was what mattered. 10 years after they'd disappeared, Lena stood in front of her classroom of 5th graders, teaching them about resilience, about second chances, about how people could change if they wanted it badly enough. A kid in the back raised his hand. "Ms. Hayes, have you ever known someone who changed? Like really changed?" Lena thought about it, about Damien. about the man he'd been and the father he'd become, about mornings watching him make pancakes with their daughter, about nights when he still woke up from nightmares, but she was there to hold him until he remembered where he was, who he was now. Yes, she said, I've known someone who changed everything about himself. It wasn't easy. It cost him almost everything. But he did it because he decided who he wanted to be mattered more than who he'd been. Did it work? Lena smiled. He's still working on it, every single day. But yes, it worked. The kid nodded, satisfied. The bell rang. Students poured out of the classroom. Lena packed up her things. Her phone buzzed. Damien, picking up Sarah from school. Dinner at 6? Perfect, she typed back. Love you more. She walked out of the school into Portland sunshine. The rain had finally stopped. The world smelled like wet earth and possibility. Somewhere back in Washington, D.C., trials were probably still happening. Old men in expensive suits arguing about crimes committed decades ago. The machinery of justice grinding slowly forward. But here, in this moment, in this life they'd built from wreckage, none of that mattered. Lena drove home through familiar streets, pulled into the driveway of their small house with the garden that sometimes survived. Damien's truck was already there. She could hear Sarah's laughter from the backyard. She found them in this garden. Damien teaching their daughter how to plant tomatoes, getting dirt everywhere, both of them grinning like it was the best thing they'd ever done. Damien looked up when Lena appeared. His silver eyes, once so cold, now so warm, lit up. Hey, he said. Hey, she said back. Such a small word. But it held everything, every choice they'd made, every sacrifice, every moment they'd chosen each other when the world said they shouldn't. Sarah ran over, covered in dirt. Mommy, Daddy says the tomatoes will be big as my head. Maybe not that big, Damien laughed. But big, Sarah insisted. But big, he agreed. Lena joined them in the dirt, helped plant tomatoes that might grow or might die, but they'd try anyway. Because that's what you did. You planted things, you hoped, you kept choosing life even when it was hard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The kind of sunset that felt like an ending and a beginning all at once. What are you thinking? Damien asked quietly. Lena looked at him. At the man who'd destroyed an empire to save her, who'd rebuilt himself into someone worthy of the life they'd created. That we made it, she said, against every odd, through everything. We made it. Damien's hand found hers in the dirt, squeezed once. Together, he said. Together, she agreed. And there in a garden in Portland, surrounded by vegetables and dirt and laughter, two people who'd been told they couldn't survive found out they were wrong. They didn't just survive. They lived. Really lived. Built a home from ashes. Created beauty from wreckage. Proved that love, real, complicated, imperfect love, could be stronger than fear. The kind of love that didn't fix everything, but made the broken parts bearable. The kind of love worth fighting for. Worth dying for, worth living for. And as the sun disappeared behind the trees and the first stars appeared overhead, Lena understood something fundamental. There were no perfect endings, no happy ever afters without scars, no victories without costs. But there was this, a husband who chose her over power, a daughter who'd never know the darkness her father came from, a life built on second chances and stubborn hope. It wasn't the life Lena had imagined when she was working 3 jobs and drowning in medical debt. It wasn't the life Damien had been groomed for when he was being trained to inherit an empire. It was better, messier, harder, more real. And it was theirs, completely, forever, together.